Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you can quiet down, let's get the show on the road. The City Council is reconvening from a closed session. There's nothing to report, and I want to adjourn that meeting at 6:05 p.m. I want to call to order the Parking Authority of the City of Elk Grove regular meeting on Wednesday, July the 12th at 6:06 p.m. And Mr. Clerk.
So the Parking Authority of the City of Elk Grove welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the regular Authority Board meeting. If you wish to address the Authority during the meeting, please complete a blue speaker card, which can be found at the back of the room, provided to the Assistant City Clerk prior to consideration of the agenda item. I just want to note in the formation documents of the Parking Authority, the City Council sits as the Board of Directors for the Parking Authority. All members are present for the meeting of the Parking Authority. And I did want to note there's no additional compensation or stipend to the City Council members for their service on the Parking Authority. That will take us to Section 2, which is general public comment for the Parking Authority, but I do not have any members of the public signed up to speak on that item.
Okay, that being the case, let's move to presentation.
Moving to Section 3 of the Parking Authority, that would take us to item 3.1, which is the annual update of the Parking Authority.
And I can report to the council that there has been no financial activity or transactions whatsoever for the Parking Authority during the last fiscal year.
Can you give us more details?
Want to open public comment, seeing that there's nobody signed up to speak. Want to close public comment. And next item is adjournment. Want to adjourn this meeting at 6:07 p.m. Want to call to order the Elk Grove City Council regular meeting on Wednesday, July 12th at 6:07 p.m. Mr. Clerk.
The Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular noticed agenda item as it may deem necessary. If you wish to address the Council during the meeting, please complete a blue speaker card, which can be found at the back of the room and provided to the Assistant City Clerk prior to consideration of that agenda item. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council will be replayed on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Friday, July 14th at 1 p.m. and Monday, July 17th at noon. It is being closed captioned. It will be webcast at secmetrocable.tv. City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website at elkgrovecity.org. For members of the audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting. Thank you.
If you can call the roll, please.
For the roll call, Councilmember Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Hume. Here. Councilmember Suen. Here. Vice Mayor Detrick.
Here.
And Mayor Lee.
Here. Next item, please.
That'll take us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
And seeing that the chair of the Committee for Arts is here, Nan, why don't you come on up and honor us with lead us in the pledge.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the beginning of every regular meeting, the City Council would like to always consistently have a moment of silence. So if you can join the City Council in a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. And I have an agenda in front of me. I'll entertain a motion. Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Next item.
We have no closed session items under Section 3, which will take us to Section 4, our presentations and announcements, starting with item 4.1, which is the new hire introductions.
Good evening, Council and Mayor and Council. I'd like to ask Chief Brian Noblet and Public Works Director Bob Murdoch to introduce their new employees for hires for May and the beginning of June.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Bob Murdoch, Public Works Director. So I'd like to introduce Sean Gallagher. He's the new O&M manager. He's taking over for John Scott. He spent the last 10 years in various positions of the O&M division for the city of Stockton. When we advertised this position, we got almost 90 applicants. And so Sean beat out quite a group. I'm very excited for him to be here. He has a tremendous amount of experience in maintenance management systems and different aspects, and I'm looking forward to him really going through our budget and helping us understand what we spend money on, what things cost, and how to be more efficient. With that, I know he's hit the ground running. We were lucky enough, HR did a great job in getting him here. We had a 2-week overlap with John Scott, and so he's here now and ready to go, and I'm really pleased to have him. So thank you.
Bob, I just wanted to say, welcome Sean. And I've already met Sean because he hit the ground running. He was already out there with me servicing a group of residents over some pavement issues. So thank you very much, Sean, and welcome.
Thank you.
Sean, welcome, and if you could send your contact information, because you're obviously a key part in keeping everything running smooth around here.
Yes, definitely. I'll make sure that all of you guys have access to that.
Thank you. Welcome.
Awesome. Welcome to the best city in the world, and you picked the right place to work.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
There we go, that's better. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to introduce some additional new employees to the city that work for the police department. I'm going to start on this end. This is Ashley Mattoon. She's one of our newest police dispatchers. And next to her is Matthew Brown, also a dispatcher. And I'm going to turn this way. This is Aaron Jones, our newest records technician. And last but certainly not least is Christopher Serra, our newest community service officer. So it's my pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce them tonight.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Welcome all of you.
Welcome, and thank you for bringing them all in.
Thanks, Matthew.
If you guys don't mind, we'd like to get a photo of all of you.
Do you want Bob?
Yes, please. Introduce you on social media as well.
I get to stand in the middle?
Photo bomb.
All right, next item.
Take us to item 4.2, which is the Committee for the Arts Annual Update.
Good evening, Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Detrick, members of the council. I am Nathan Bagwell. I serve as the interim senior budget analyst in the city manager's office. I have the pleasure of serving as the staff liaison to the Committee for the Arts. And this evening, we will be providing you with the annual update, and I would like to invite the chairperson up now to go ahead and provide you with that update.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and council members. My name is Nan Mahan, and I am chair of the Elk Grove City Committee for the Arts. I'd like to introduce my fellow committee members that are here tonight. If they would stand up. Cheryl Grice is the vice chair. Liz Irons. And we have two missing members tonight, Leslie Sandifer and Sally Guttridge. It's our pleasure to be here tonight to speak to you of the progress that we've made in expanding the arts in our community. We want to thank you for the opportunity to bring the art in its many forms to our city. It's been a very busy year for us, and we expect to be even busier in the future. On February the 10th, we are proud to produce a classical music concert called For the Love of Music, featuring accomplished classical music artists. There you see our committee member, Leslie Sandifer there, who's a vocalist. And we'd like to also thank Councilman Pat Hume for being our master of ceremonies for that evening. It was very, it was a very nice evening altogether. And the public appreciation for this program was such that we hope to do more of it in the future. Now, the new percentage for the arts program, this is an exciting thing for us because it will help us bring more activities and arts to the city. This newly designated money directed by the City Council will enable this community to develop this committee to develop those programs to enrich the city's cultural and visual landscape. It will enhance our image in this region. Committee and staff will collaborate on how best to use these funds. Now, this project we're very excited about is the Art for the New Civic Center. We have spent many hours, many meetings with architects and with staff looking for the best designs for the image that we want. We're looking for original works in many genres, some for the interior and some for the exterior. I think that we have formed some very interesting ideas, and we are sending out a call for artists to see what they have in mind for us. As you can see there, we have eight ideas already that we have put down, and hopefully we can carry through with those. At the moment, we're working to bring public art to the new animal shelter when it is completed. This is something we've just begun, and it will be a while before we get something that is acceptable to us, but we're already issuing a call to artists on that also. We're presently working with future programs that we are considering. And the ones that we have are bringing forward to you tonight is a film festival. A film festival will bring not only attention to our city, but revenue. According to the Americans for the Arts, any visitor who comes to your city will spend approximately $32 in addition to the price of the ticket that they spend. We believe a film festival would be quite a draw. We are looking at a book fair comparable perhaps to the one in Sonoma. If you've ever been to the Sonoma Book Fair, it's a large event, and authors come from all over the state to participate in that. Because the classical music event went over so well, we are considering a series of small mini classical events, perhaps not as elaborate as that one. And the public has requested that we do more of the utility box beautification, so that is also on our agenda. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.
Questions?
Yes, I do. Nan, thank you for the presentation. We had an opportunity to meet over breakfast, and I'm just so amazed at how much your committee has done for this city. And and seeing the different types of possible projects that you have coming up for 2018. One of the things that I've been working with in different cities here in the county is that promoting more of the arts project in each city. And one of the things that I know to entice more folks to be more engaged in it is, I know it's the Committee for the Arts right now, but would you be interested, and this might be something that we discuss with John or Laura, in changing the name to an Arts Commission rather than Committee for the Arts?
I believe it is the consensus of our committee that we would like that very much.
Great. And I don't know, Mr. Mayor, where we
Yes.
start with that, or if that's possible to get done.
I think all they really need is, well, John, defer to John. I mean, it's a change of a name,
It's a
essentially.
change of name. We'd bring back a resolution changing the name. It's not a major issue. So if you want to call it the Arts Commission, we can certainly accommodate that.
Yeah, I'd support that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to
So-
add is, I want to commend your hard work. I know you're out in the community quite a bit, and not only that, but your community members. And I am always mindful that the art is what brings character to our city.
I'm having just a little trouble hearing you, sir.
I'm not speaking loud enough. How about that?
Okay.
Is that better? I want to commend you and the committee members for the excellent work that you guys have been doing on the committee. And not only that, but I recognize the importance of art and adding character to our beautiful city. So thank you so much for your continued work.
Thank you.
Nan, I will echo those sentiments, and I would love to help you with that film festival, too. I'm a movie buff, so I think that'd be a really fun thing to have here.
I think, it looks like a lot of work, but I think it would be worth it. The fruits of it would be worth it in the end, and perhaps as an ongoing event, not just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll just add that I really appreciated being a part of that classical music concert, and I'm glad to see that you're going to revisit that and do more of them in the future. And as well, I'm happy to hear that the public is responding positively to the utility box beautification. I tried for years to get that to gain some momentum, and now finally that it's out of the ground, I know I certainly appreciate every time I drive by each one of them.
Yes, we've had very good feedback, and people keep asking us when are we going to do more. So,
Great.
And thank you for being part of our musical.
My pleasure.
Good. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Councilman Hume, the problem is those boxes are being out of the ground. That's the problem. Anyway, appreciate what you guys do, Nan. Do you have a registry of all the public and private art pieces that are accessible to the public
You mean for our city?
for the city of Elk Grove?
Yes, we do. Mhm.
Is that something that we can make sure is on our website, Laura?
It's on the website, and we also have a brochure. Kara, if you want to chime in.
Okay.
Yeah, on the Committee for the Arts webpage, we have a directory of all of the art in town that's accessible to residents, and, it's a challenge to keep it updated, but there's several pieces there, including the pieces that we own here in our city buildings, and I can send that link around.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you, Nan, for all you guys do, and I'm looking forward to, obviously, we have some big projects that'll help fund that we put together for you guys, so looking forward to everything that's going to go on with all these major projects over the next couple of years.
Thank you. We're looking forward to tackling them and seeing how we can move them forward. So we have a lot of good resources here in Elk Grove to guide us. Also, we have filmmakers here in Elk Grove who are residents here in Elk Grove that can help us give us input on how to go about this.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
Take us to Section 5, public comment.
And we have a number of speakers signed up to speak. First speaker is Emily Muma. Following Emily is Jody Tafoya.
Mayor Lee and council members, thank you for having me. I live on the west side of the Capitol Reserve Development. There was a variance request by the builder of Woodside Homes regarding a 12-foot setback on lot number 10. The requirement for the setback is 15 feet, as was approved by the city council. And I am aware that this variance request has not been on the last or tonight's council agenda, but I didn't want it to be forgotten. They have poured several more foundations/slabs on the homes along the west fence, and I would like to be reassured, as well as the other neighbors, that the setbacks are indeed 15 feet and no less. I didn't know if there were any inspections or anyone overseeing the project that's being done or to verify this, but I certainly hope so. And if there is a mistake in the setback, wouldn't it be better to stop the construction now, correct the mistake, and start over, rather than let the house be completely built, pass inspection, and be in escrow lot number 10? We attended the Planning Commission's meeting in May, and even they were amazed about the setback error and how a mistake like this could even happen. They were also very disturbed that the Stevens, the adjacent neighbor west of the fence, was not contacted by the builder regarding the setback error. The builder's spokesperson was not adequately informed, and he did not even know the model of the home or its square footage. It was very disappointing, and it made me think that the builder had no concerns for the Stevens or the other members at all. We know the Planning Commission made a couple of recommendations. We would be very interested in hearing how City Council views their recommendation and votes on the variance request by the builder. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can just give you just a brief update. It's my understanding that after that Planning Commission denial, the builder is not moving forward with their variance request. They've decided to go ahead and correct the issue in the ground. Is that correct, Darren?
That is correct.
And so that I think that this coming to light, put it on everyone's radar, and I would be very surprised if it happens again.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we
Appreciate
had
it.
met, and we talked about, and I did send an email out to the entire group explaining that, because I went back to staff, and I did ask about that after we had all met.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, I think several of the neighbors that were on that email list did not receive the email. So I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think if
apologize.
it's possible, if you could send another one out,
I'll
I
do
think
that.
they'd greatly appreciate it.
I'll do that.
All right, thank you.
And I would assume that the magnifying glass is on the developer now, right, Darren?
Yes, and they also have some incentive to follow those setbacks as well, because it's awfully costly to reconstruct those homes.
Right.
So at this time, the setbacks are, or with the house, it's going to be resolved at some, whichever way.
They're basically going to tear off that 3-foot jut out so that the setback will be the required 15 feet.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Judy Tafoya. Following Judy is Nathan Champion.
Good to see you, Judy.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good to see you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and members of the council, I'm speaking tonight again on behalf of Judy Tafoya, speaking on behalf of the Arts Advocacy Project, and I'm happy to report to you that the very first arts exposition in Elk Grove will take place in March 2018. We called it Arts Beat. It will be all-inclusive, representative of all the arts that are and have come out of Elk Grove and our community, and will be able to shine a light on some art resources and riches that are in this community that I'm afraid too many of our own community aren't aware of yet. But happily, we formed a committee that consists of broad community interests everywhere from the Elk Grove Unified School District, which has been responsible in large part for turning out so much of the amazing talent that has come out of Elk Grove, and many of them are now working in the arts and entertainment capitals throughout America and the world. So there's a lot happening under our noses that I think the community at large is going to be very thrilled to learn about. And happily, we've also gotten a lot of unsolicited inquiries from throughout the region that are saying, Elk Grove is doing what? And we're saying, and they want to come down and they want to be a part of it, which I think is, while we're focusing on Elk Grove talent, I think it's gratifying that other people recognize that we're becoming another destination in the community. We have just had our first information meeting for the community, and we invited artists locally. We have a number of artists already and artist organizations already on board to participate in March. We believe it's going to be the first of its kind in Elk Grove. It will. What we're doing is we're creating a calendar of all kinds of visual, performing, literary arts, and collaborations where you'll see all of those different art forms in one event. A lot of stage, a lot of music, a lot of theater, as well as the visual arts that we all crave. We're right now just launching this project into the community. We're asking any community organization that might be interested in learning more about what ArtSpeed is all about to please feel free to contact us. I think on the back counter, and maybe you have up front too, we have a information flyer. Please refer to it. It gives you a little more detail and names and contact information. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see you tonight and very, very gratified for the support that we've received from each of you over time for the arts. You won't be sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Next speaker is Nathan Champion. Following Nathan is Paul Mamerly. You can correct me when you come on up. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Nathan Champion. I'm here on behalf of the Benevento de Monte Way Neighborhood Watch Group. I have some neighbors here with me. I'd like them to stand for a moment, if they would. So I spoke before you on February 22nd earlier this year about 6136 de Monte and how the illegal activities there are preventing our neighbors from peacefully enjoying the use of our properties. I want to thank the beat cops that usually respond very quickly to our calls and have been able to make some headway in trying to keep that property under control. So the issue at hand is that excessive criminal activity is still exists there. I'm going to run through some things here, and I apologize, it's quite a lengthy list. So. In December of 2016, I'll remind you that shots were fired in the front yard, hitting our neighbor's house, going through a bedroom and lodging itself in the bathroom door. We have multiple pit bulls chewing through fences, causing property damages, acting very aggressively, getting out in the street, getting in people's yards, preventing their young children from being able to play in their own yards. The dogs are unlicensed. Residents are not caring for the injuries of their dogs after the fights. Now, some of these have been taken care of. Like, they've been really good at working on that. I'm just reminding you that this happens. They didn't pay for pizza on the December 27th when it was delivered. The delivery man shows up, and then they took the pizza and slammed the door in his face. Regularly occurring short-stay traffic by many, many different cars. On March 5th, 2017, a resident of that house called because there was domestic violence going on in a bedroom. And on March 12th of 2017, a resident called the police because other residents broke down his door and stole things out of his bedroom. A white van was towed because the person driving it had no license, and many cars there have no license plates. There's frequent loud music or gatherings of people in the front yard. In one instance recently, someone threw a beer bottle in the middle of the street, shattering it in the middle of the street. April 21st, 2017, one resident was arrested for probation violations and possession of a controlled substance. On May 5th, 2017, arrests for 2 residents occurred because they were breaking into a delivery truck parked at Kohl's and were stealing merchandise from the trailer. Recent evidence of prostitution has been documented from Elk Grove PD in front of that house. Arrests have been made for violations of probation at that house. On June 29th, 2017, 2 people were arrested for theft of a brand-new truck. Recent case numbers associated with this property are 175-00315, 170-2552, 1700-1347, 1700-4235, 1700-1111, 1700-3090. I think what's missing here is an investigator to connect all these dots together. We need to go after the property owner that allows this to happen. My time's up, so I will stop my speech here. I did leave a copy of my outline with the clerk there, but we're doing the best that we can. You know, the police are doing the best that they can, but we need some extra resources here focused on this house.
Nathan, quick question. This is one house that you've identified?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
The residents of one house.
And there's current coordination with the POP officer?
Yes, sir. The POP officer's on it, and you know, as you can see, the police are there. They're writing up the police reports. They're arresting people. They're doing this, but how are we going to make it stop? Right? I mean, this is all coming from one house. At what point do we say, hey, there's enough criminal activity here that the owner of this house is complicit? And by the way, I've been sending certified registered letters to the owner. The owner signed for one, and subsequently the rest have been returned as non-deliverable. So it appears as though the owner of this house is unwilling to establish a conversation for how we can correct these deficiencies. So, I mean, we're going to try to take a civil matter on this, but it's really hard when we can't even make contact with the homeowner. The person that the city is dealing with is not the homeowner. You know, just to remind you, to recap, the home is owned by Kiran Rawat, according to Sacramento County Assessor's Office, and the mailing address on file for that house is 6136 DeMonte, so it is that house. But the person that the city's been dealing with is a man named Raghavendra Singh. Okay, I'll spell that. Where do I have it here? Ragvendra, Singh. And if you look him up, Raghavendra Singh of Sacramento County, he is well known as being having many other rental properties like this that are mismanaged, and it's a problem. And somebody needs to step up. I mean, it's hard. I know it's hard. I know Sacramento County has tried, and that they've had a hard time with them. But I don't think that that in itself should be a deterrent for why we do not. And by the way, I think we're going after the wrong person. I mean, the lawsuits or the discussions shouldn't be with Raghavendra Singh. They need to be with the legal homeowner of that house, because ultimately she is the one that is responsible for the conditions that are there and how that affects and takes away our ability to enjoy our neighborhood.
That name sounds familiar. Similar, we've dealt with this before, right, John?
Yeah, we have dealt with it before. I think the owner is related to Mr. Singh in some way, but Mr. Singh has been the contact for the city over the course of dealing with this property.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have seen documents from the city and from court cases that reference that perhaps he's married to Kiran Rawat. However, nobody's ever seen or spoken to Kiran Rawat, and to my knowledge, nobody has ever seen a marriage certificate or license showing that they are actually married. I cannot disprove that Kiran Rawat does not exist.
So back to you, John. What options do we have legally?
Well, obviously, the police department is active in this. Code enforcement has been out there as well, and I know that your code enforcement manager has been talking with Mr. Champion about this as to what other remedies we can take from an administrative standpoint. It sounds like they're considering a civil action, which would certainly be one remedy available to them.
Anything additional on our end?
Well, we can continue to look for possible violations, arrest the wrongdoers. I can take a look at the possibility of going after the owner. I'm happy to do that if you like, and continue to work with the police and code enforcement staff to shut down the violations, see what we can do.
Okay.
Would there be a possibility, John, of crafting an ordinance that holds owners of rental property accountable for the quality of the?
They already are. Under the code, owners are responsible for maintaining their property. We already have that in place. It's not really a matter of having the tools in place. We have those tools in place. It's a matter of finding the correct responsible parties, proving up violations, whether it's in an administrative hearing or in court, to demonstrate that there should be some more aggressive actions being taken. Part of the problem with situations like this is singularly the violations may not seem that bad. It's when you have to build them all up together, as Mr. Champion's kind of laid out. You want to try to, as he puts it, connect the dots to show some sort of a pattern. That's kind of a tough thing to do. It can be done, and I agree with him. The fact that it may be difficult is not a reason not to do it. But the ordinances are in place right now. It's a matter of marshaling the evidence and bringing it together, either in an administrative hearing or a civil action, as he has suggested, to convince either a judge or a hearing officer that more aggressive tactics should be taken. We do have our administrative violation procedures under the code, which consists of fines. We can fine the owner and or the occupants for violations. We can arrest the criminals and move them away. If other criminals show up, they can be arrested as well.
Well, I would think rattling off half a dozen to a dozen case file numbers kind of connects those dots that we need. Are we able to levy those fines with any kind of a, I don't know, interest provision or something that puts a time value to proactive response? Because it sounds like this person's just stuck their head in the sand.
Yeah,
and
we can
doesn't care.
ultimately, there's procedure where the liens, or the fines can be placed on the property as liens. Ultimately, those can be foreclosed upon. That typically is done through the county, where the liens pile up. We give it to the county, who then collects the fines, and then if and when they're ready to foreclose on the property. Typically, that process takes about 5 years. It's not the most effective route of dealing with it. I think that our ordinance provides for interest, but frankly, on the top of my head, I can't remember if it does or not. But we can certainly take a look at that.
Well, even regardless of the interest, if we can lien the property, 5 years from now, from today, is certainly faster than 5 years from a year from now when we finally getting around to doing it. So I think we need to be, it's sad that you had to come down here a second time, and it sounds like PD's been very responsive, and they're trying to address the issue. But when you have tenants, I'll call them, because I don't even think they're residents, they're tenants of this house that are dropping the dime on each other for crimes that they're committing, that's a dysfunctional situation. And if the owner's not going to address it, we should. And the only way we can do that is by putting the pressure on them that, hey, if you put your head in the sand on this, we'll take this property from you. We won't tolerate it. That's it, period. Clean up the act. So however we need to get that point across and compel these people, it's not welcome. These folks are trying to enjoy a quality of life in their neighborhood, and they're being denied by irresponsible individuals who are being permitted there by somebody who is interested in only their financial bottom line and not the well-being of the community that they have property.
Thank you.
Councilman Sun?
Actually, John, you answered my question about the foreclosure possibility, so thank you.
No, I think, Councilman Hume, you're absolutely right. I said that the only part of the problem is with that code enforcement and our PD deal with every day is it's not the honorable people that we have the problems with. And the honorable people, they're used to having some kind of consequence that they don't want to pay a fine. Or the problem is if you get, squeezing blood out of a tournament out of some of these people. They don't have anything that you can go after on some of them. Obviously, the property owner in this case, we do. And I think you're right, that's probably the biggest person we have leverage on. And I know how our PD and our code enforcement works, and man, it's an uphill battle. I really feel sorry for what you guys are going through, and
Yeah.
we're gonna help you every way we can.
I'd like to ask for a special investigator or somebody. I'd like the city council to direct the police department to assign an investigator to connect the dots and to work this case till the end.
Well, I would assume that the chief would have to respond to it, but they're already doing a lot of this. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, hours and hours of stuff that takes place that some of it is privileged that they can't even discuss with the general public, and they don't even discuss with us. So, Chief, I don't know if you can pipe in on this at all.
I appreciate the opportunity, actually. What I would prefer to do, and I'm not trying to be elusive here, is rather than commit to assigning an investigator, is commit to taking a fresh look at Mr. Champion and the neighborhood's case, and redouble our efforts with code enforcement. We can't put a point person probably on the case, but the idea, frankly, of assigning an investigator full-time to this case in an organization where we're already somewhat limited in resources it's a rather obvious challenge that I just wouldn't be prepared to be able to commit to tonight. But as far as the effort goes with POP and code enforcement, we'll continue to be as responsive as we have been. If it's the desire of the council and the city to move forward with, in the interest of finding the property owner and taking that route, then we'll certainly pursue that.
We want to pursue all the options that we can. I think, I wasn't suggesting that we assign a person full-time to this, but the matter of linking everything, taking all the data you have and taking a fresh look at it and linking everything that you can, I think is a great start.
I know we've got a mobile camera tower we could tow over and drop across the street. That might deter some of those short-term visits.
My guess is it's been there.
It has not. My understanding is that perhaps there has been some covert surveillance, but not the overt surveillance. And of course, I don't really have any details, and I'm just speculating.
If I may, there may be an opportunity to plug in an analyst or someone of that nature that can take the various inputs, the case numbers, whatnot, and take a look at that and really chart that out and see what that looks like, see where the linkages are, and perhaps make some headway in that manner.
Well, I think that's part of it, but maybe the more effective route is back to, John, is there a way we can do some research? We can't be the only jurisdiction that's come across this issue. There's some legal recourse, and maybe team up with the county.
There is legal recourse. Mr. Singh, whom Mr. Champion mentioned, is fairly well known to our staff, to our legal staff, code enforcement staff, and he does run other properties around the region and the state and other states, as I understand it. He is a fairly elusive individual and fairly hard to pin down. What it appears to be happening is he keeps property in other people's names, perhaps his wife. I can't prove or disprove the existence of that person either, but that seems to be what's happening. He seems to be a sophisticated individual who tries to work through the system in a way that's advantageous to him. We can certainly take a look at that, and as the chief puts it, take a fresh look at this and look at any additional remedies, whether they're criminal, civil, administrative, whatever the case may be. I'm happy to do that.
Great. Sounds good. The other thing that I have a question for you, Mr. Champion, is the POP officer, is that your point of contact? Do you communicate on a regular basis?
I communicate fairly regularly with Officer Mosier. What strikes me is that it appears as though different divisions of the department and or code enforcement are not talking to each other to communicate, hey, yeah, this code enforcement violation happened. Yes, our POP department is aware of it. Okay, well, this, stop for prostitution happened. Okay, our street department. Now, is the street crimes unit, are they talking to the code enforcement team? Like, to me, when I talk with Officer Mosier, it does not sound like there is if it's in their department, they know what it is, right? If it's not in their department, when I talk to them about it, they're like, oh, that's the first time that I've heard of this. And that's what I'm saying, is nobody's connecting the dots. Nobody has the total picture of what is occurring there. And because of that, they look at each instance and they go, oh, prostitution, well, that's a harmless crime. It doesn't hurt anybody, except for the women that are being compromised and taken advantage of, But anyways, they look at it as a small piece. They don't look at it as, in the last 7 months, we have 14 verifiable crimes. That's not to talk about the 50 to 100 short stay stops. I mean, between us neighbors, we have hundreds of pictures of different cars frequenting that house. And we can provide them all to the police department. But, you know, I was doing that for a while. I'm sending 20, 30, 40 pictures of cars, and nobody's interested in seeing that. Because there's nobody building the case, right? They'd be interested if they were building the case. They'd be like, oh, send me some more pictures. We're gonna run these license plates. We're gonna develop the pattern. We're gonna see what's happening here. But that's what I sense when I speak with the police department. The beat cops, though, they're all over it. They know what's going on. They patrol regularly and come out for the calls.
Well, Mr. Champion, you got the head of code enforcement here, you got our police chief, you got our city attorney that are all, I'm sure, going to triangulate this and make sure that it's all looked at.
I hope
extremely
so.
thoroughly.
We've had some meetings in the past. In fact, we had one on April 25th. And unfortunately, I have to say that I found out today that literally no actions were taken on our neighbors' suggestions of how we could fix the issue. So that was incredibly disappointing to me. And that is why I'm here again, asking for the help of the city council, because I believe that with your emphasis, that we can start to make some headway. We're doing our part. We need help.
You've been heard loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Let us know how it goes, but I have a strange feeling that everything's going to be step up a notch. So, all right, next speaker is Paul Memorell. All right, you can correct me on how to properly pronounce it.
Mr. Mamrell, thank you.
Thank
Mayor.
you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and people in the council here. Just to echo my neighbor Nate Champion about the situation, I'm not here to regurgitate what he said, but I am the property owner and occupant of the home that shares a property line of this particular home. It's becoming a nuisance. We've been dealing with it for a year. Mr. Champion has outlined all the remaining facts of the home over the past 18 months. My wife and I are hardworking taxpayers and registered voters, and we worked way too hard. We moved from the Bay Area to come to a city like this to raise our growing family. This is an issue. It's reoccurring so much that the tenants in this house, and obviously you know that the tenants aren't the owners. The owner is some individual that no one has ever met, and it's becoming a problem. They have pet bulls that been seized a handful of times by animal control, and they have chewed through backyards. They're now causing problems on my property fence. My fear is that I built a playground for my 3 minor children, and I have to go in the backyard, because I'm a law enforcement officer myself. I work federal probation. I have to go in the backyard, watch my kids play in the backyard, or even barbecue with my firearm, which scares me. I don't want that pet bull going through, and the pet bulls are still there. I have to take bikes with, ride bikes with my kids going the opposite direction. I can't go down the street in front of this house. It's a problem. And even exiting the garage at times, I've got to be aware of my surroundings regarding whether or not that dog has been loosed, and it's been loosed on several occasions. This is a ongoing occurrence. I thank the Elk Grove PD for everything they have done. This is something beyond, I guess now, beyond our control. I'm reaching out to you, council, pleading and hopefully getting some response, and it sounds like you guys are going to make some action towards and segue towards this issue. I don't want a situation where one of my children or maybe the neighboring children or adults get mauled by their pet bulls or shots fired. My understanding was shot was fired to my neighbor's house, Sanjay will speak pretty soon, through his child's bedroom. Unfortunately, luckily his child was not sleeping during that night in that bedroom. So I know that crime is everywhere, and crime is, Elk Grove PD has their hands full, and they have a number of rotating cops on shifts. Totally understand that. I feel for that that I do in my profession. But I feel that my particular block I live in, I feel that I live in maybe the streets of Stockton or comparable to Oakland. Just my particular block that I live in because of this particular house. So I want to continue living in Elk Grove. I love Elk Grove. It's a great city. I know it's one of the top 10 growing cities in the state of California. Continue that. But I'm just echoing my issues, my feelings, and representing my wife and my family in regards to the situation occurring on our block. That's all. I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mamrell, for coming tonight, all of you. We are sorry for what you're going through. I did want to address the specific concerns about pit bulls and shots fired. I mean, this has nothing to do with the owner. This is the tenants that are there. You know, Chief, is animal control able to step in and remove those dogs, number one? And number two, if there's a shot fired, aren't we allowed then to go in and remove the weapon, remove the individual living there?
Well, relative to the shots fired case, that was some time ago, and there was an arrest made in that matter. So I would consider that as having been handled.
Okay.
With respect to the dogs, apparently animal control has been out, removed the dogs on various occasions. There are certain criteria which, I'll be brutally honest, I don't know what all of them are relative to the dog being deemed dangerous and being able to be withheld for a longer period of time. We'll certainly explore that. Based on what we've heard, from this gentleman, I would be concerned as well. So we'll take another look relative to the pit bulls.
Okay.
And one more thing I would like to say is that a majority of the individuals currently living in there are either on probation and parole. I have to use my outside resources to find who are their parole agent or maybe probation officer to even do a search in that house. But there are current felony individuals in there, ongoing activity. I could only speculate, but because of my profession and what I could see, I know something's going on. So that's all.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next speaker is Sanjay Lal.
Good evening, council members and honorable mayor. My name is Sanjay Lal, and I live on 6136 house, right across the house. And the reason I'm here, Nathan has spoken and Paul has spoken, and I would like to talk about, I live with my wife and my 4-year-old son and a small dog. We have a good resident. We've been enjoying Algrove since 2012 actually, and we have moved into this neighborhood because we found it to be quiet and peaceful, just as we expected. Unfortunately, I cannot say that now. And it has been more than 1 year since 6136 house has been a rental property by the owner, and we don't even know who the owner is, whom I must say and add that no one knows the real identity of and to a bunch of shady renters with known criminal background. It's obvious that the house was never rented to a single family. I would like to quickly state the problems my family has been suffering due to the occupants of the 6136. First, on December 8, 2017, my house was shot. I discovered actually the shooting after 2 weeks. My son pointed that out to me after seeing the bullet holes on the door, saying it's a monster did it. The bullet was discharged by the 6136 occupant made its entry through our upstairs bedroom, which fortunately for me, because I wasn't sleeping in that room, or we were watching a movie that night and we didn't know what was going on outside. The bullet entered through the walls between the bedroom and the bathroom and lodged itself into the open bathroom door, which is next to my son's room. Immediately after discovering the bullet holes, I reported the incident to Algrove Police Department, and fortunately the Algrove Police Department came, and I was with my son on a Friday evening, and they took the report, but nothing was done for months. Me and my wife did contact the investigating officer, Jimenez, and he was very nice. He came on a day when he was off, and because I saw the shooter, so he came and arrested him. During those months, and even now, we live in constant fear of being shot or harassed by the renters of the 6136 house. My family is also very concerned, and there has been presence of sex offenders at that house and people with violent criminal background and drug users, and dealers also occupying the 6136 house at a given time. This presents very real danger to me and my neighbors, and I would like to Elk Grove City Council to seriously regulate and prohibit so that it can restore peace in my neighborhood, and especially it has been a very peaceful place before this.
Mr. Lau, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry you have to go through this.
And I just wanted to add, I've done some research about the current person who says he's the owner of that house, which actually happens to be Mr. Singh. And I belong to a temple, a member of a temple, and the president has identified the person does not own any properties. He's been separated from his wife for many years, and he's been just occupying that property. His wife, we don't know where she lives and all that, so. And he's buying all these houses on cash basis, and that's why there's no way of tracing him. Nothing goes under him, it's just a postal address. If you send things, he keeps on changing these addresses, so. And he keeps on coming to the property all the time.
Yeah.
Do have
Thank
any
you.
questions, or? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Our last speaker is Ms. Lynn Wheat.
Good evening, Lynn Wheat, Citizen Planner. I'm here tonight to just talk about the city's SOI application. The Bilby application, the NOP, the Notice of Preparation for the Environmental Work, came out. Now that application started after our city's application with LAFCO. And we did spend $4.4 million on 100 acres for a potential soccer site, and I'm just wondering where that application is. And in my wondering, I talked to LAFCO staff, and they said that everything's been prepared and is ready, but the city is holding it up. And so I'm really curious about that, and maybe Councilmember Hume can help us out because he sits on the LAFCO Commission, can give us an update as to where that application process is. Now, I realize we've been busy with our general plan update, and that NOP has been released, and there's many projects that the city is juggling around. But this one, we have paid the consultant, work was started, and according to LAFCO staff, again, it is all ready to be released, but the city's holding it up. So for what reason would we want to hold something up when there was such enthusiasm about this? Just as there was with getting our swimming pool going and the civic center, you know, where are we with this application? Thank you.
I'd like to ask Christopher Jordan to respond, please.
So the application for the City Sphere application is still in process. Actually, staff was meeting with LAFCO staff and the environmental consultant earlier this week. Some of the delay has been on the traffic analysis side. We wanted to make sure that the cumulative analysis is accurate and correct. We've also wanted to make sure the traffic analysis includes not just the LOS analysis that LAFCO would be looking for, but also the VMT analysis that we would need for future development approval, which would happen potentially after approval of the new general plan. So we want to make sure all that information's there. There are some pieces of the environmental document still to be worked on, and we're waiting for the full schedule update from the consultant to outline when we anticipate the document hitting the street.
Okay.
Assuming it's being relayed accurately, why would LAFCO staff portray it as that the city has put the brakes on things?
I can't speak to what LAFCO staff would be saying. We've been in contact with them over the last several months. They've known we've been working on the traffic analysis.
Okay. Next item.
Take us to section 6, general administration information.
Mayor and council members, first, I'd like to start with an update about the utility billing transitioning to Republic Services. Republic Services did take over utility billing services on July 1st. However, due to some technical issues with entering the city's storm drain fees into the Republic system, the first bills have been delayed by a couple of weeks. And Republic is wanting to take the extra time to ensure that they're sending out accurate information. So customers can expect to see their first Republic-issued bill the week of July 17th. Secondly, the police department is operating Safety Town again for 2 weeks. They're being held at Helen Carr Costello Elementary School. This week, we are hosting 41 pre-kindergarten students, and next week, we will be offering the program to 42 students. The program introduces children to safety awareness and prevention with lessons on pedestrian and bicycle safety, school bus safety, personal safety, and fire prevention. Also, the Consumnes Community Services District in the city will host its second community outreach meeting for Sing and Carr Park this Thursday, July 13th at Elizabeth Pinkerton Middle School from 6 to 8. Ideas generated at this meeting will be incorporated into a park design master plan. Also, to let you know that we still are having goats grazing rights-of-way and creek corridors in the city. Currently, the goats are working with Union Pacific Railroad to clear areas around the tracks, and we expect to see the goats in our creek corridors to remove the fire risks later this month. Tuesday, August 1st is National Night Out, and we ask that groups hosting National Night Out parties on that night we ask them to submit their online request to the police department by Friday, July 25th. Both the police department and the Consumnes Fire Department join responders in cities throughout the country that recognize National Night Out as a way to strengthen neighborhoods and prevent crime. Staff and council members also work the parties as well, and it's a really good time to ask citizens how we're doing, what they need from us, as well as celebrating neighborhoods within the city. Also, work has begun on the city's multimodal feasibility study. The study will evaluate options for where the facility could be developed. There'll be a community open house on Wednesday, August the 2nd, here in these chambers from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Also, for those of you that are photographers, the city and the town planner calendar are teaming up to host a photo contest on Instagram. Submit your best shot taken within the city through Instagram using the hashtag EGTownPlanner18. The winner will receive $100, and the photo will be used on the cover of the 2018 Elk Grove Town Planner calendar. The deadline for those entries is August 18th. The only update on the Standing Citywide Initiatives update is with Camera Road widening. There was a memorandum of understanding signed by the new executive director after the Joint Powers Authority's June 30th, 2017 board meeting. It is on your agenda for tonight. That concludes my report for this evening.
Awesome. Any questions? No questions. Next item then.
Take us to Section 7, council comments, reports, and future agenda items.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Well, there's a lot of community events going on. Probably the biggest one that I participated in was the 4th of July, and Jody and Kristen and the entire team, Kara was out there. You guys did a phenomenal job on the setup, and then the event itself, and obviously the spectacular fireworks at the end are always a great finale. So thank you for doing that, and I know that not only the residents of Elk Grove, but a lot of people from around the region come out and enjoy that. And I think there's an estimated 10,000 people that were there, and 22,000. Holy Toledo! I guess I estimated low.
Thanks.
That's pretty amazing. So thank you.
Okay, Councilman Hume.
Thank you. And just to say, if you'd been walking home from watching the fireworks like I was, with the throngs of people feeding into the neighborhoods to fetch their cars, you'd realize 22,000 even seems a little low for me. I mean, it's a very well-attended event. I put that fireworks show up against anyone in the region. It's spectacular. Every time you think, oh, there's the finale, it just keeps going again. And then you think, there's the finale, and it keeps going. So Councilmember Nguyen and I held the second diversity subcommittee meeting, and we've established a timeline. And staff is working on putting together an RFP that will be reviewed, and then we will put it out and look to award that later this year, with the idea of the full audit of practices coming back, hopefully at a June council meeting of next year. I thought it was a good discussion, much more process-focused than sort of issues-focused, but I think we're on the right track. I had a Connector Joint Powers Authority meeting. Nothing too significant on the agenda except for one item, which, since he's in the audience for the item later on the agenda, I'd like to invite our new Executive Director, Derek Minima, to please come up to the podium and introduce himself and say a couple of words. And while he's walking up here, I'll say that we had a bevy of very qualified candidates apply for the position, and the board unanimously felt that, given Derek's intimate knowledge, having served as the project manager for the project, that he was able to hit the ground running. He's energetic, he's optimistic, he recognizes the challenges in front of him with respect to the funding partners, and I keep hammering into his head how important Camera Road is to the economic development of Elk Grove, so I think he gets it.
Was that a condition of employment?
It absolutely was.
Mayor, Councilman,
Or there's
council members.
1 year time frame?
Yeah.
1 year. Message received loud and clear. It's a top priority project, and it is, I recognize you guys are putting a lot of trust in us to deliver for you, and we're going to do that. We're going to look forward to collaborating with you on an efficient delivery. You'll see me here again giving project updates, especially when there's public circulation. And I just want to actually say thank you to the staff at the Public Works Department for their leadership in preparing the MOU. And you know, it's just been a very collaborative effort, and we're looking forward to more of that in the future. So,
Appreciate you being here,
Thank
Derek.
you, Derek.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then I joined my fellow council colleagues for a tour of the Cosumnes River College Elk Grove Satellite Campus. Very enlightening. Their enrollment is up to 900 students now. They've actually have the course load that someone could complete their 60-unit AA without ever stepping foot on the main Cosumnes River College campus. And they are looking to expand, and so it's exciting times. That's all I have with respect to meetings. Not necessarily future agenda items, but Shane, I had corresponded with you about the River City Spas property. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. In fact, the spas keep piling up. So if you wouldn't mind shooting me offline and giving me an update on what's going on there. Had a 10-year-old constituent contact me because she watched a duck get run over in front of Elk Grove Park, and so she wanted to see if we could put up some duck crossing signs. She sent examples of what those signs might look like. So I had a conversation with the city manager, and we'll put up about a half a dozen of those signs and keep our little feather friends, at least make people aware. Although they don't stop for people when they're walking in the crosswalk, so I don't know what chance the ducks have, but we'll put the signs up anyway. And then I wanted to follow up on the gentleman that came with the speeding in front of Amenity Circle. Are we working in contact with him? As I did notice that I drove by there purposefully, and we had a couple motors out there at the intersection of Plaza Park and Emerald Park, and so I appreciate that effort. But have we looked at maybe potential steps? And in fact, an idea I had as a cheap and non-controversial with respect to the fire department solution might be a kind of a dots rumble strip. Would that be something that would work?
It's something that we could certainly look at. We did meet with the individual in our office. We explained our traffic calming program. We gave him the paperwork to do a petition with his neighbors. And so we're waiting to get that back from him and his neighbors so that we can move forward with the process.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. This may be a question for the both of you since you're on the diversity. There was a question that came out, and they asked, why would it take so long for the RFP and then the report to come back? So I'm assuming that they're probably watching tonight, curious. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
We can have Cara. answer that because we're working with her on putting the RFP together.
Yeah, I have the notes from the ad hoc committee meeting. So what we'd like to do is have staff, once we put together the RFP, kind of propose a timeline that fits, you know, with coming back at council and preparing a contract. So we'll return that, and I think that there might be a little room to speed up some areas, but it will be a fairly comprehensive report, so it will take some time.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, in kind of working through those details that night, you know, you've got a certain amount of time to prepare the RFP and make sure you're asking for the right responses. And then you have a certain amount of time that's got to be out there for people to review it and then respond to it. And then you've got to award it, and then we looked at about a 6-month time frame for actually doing the investigative portion of it, so.
Okay, all right, excellent. Councilwoman Nguyen.
I will add, though, that that second meeting was very engaging. We didn't have as many as the first meeting we held, but I do want to thank Ms. Linwee and Mr. Joe Broussard for their input that night. I think we walked out of there really happy with what's going to come about. So I'm really excited to work with our staff here on putting that out. And then we'll be sure we let our committee know, or our members of the committee know when that is going out. So thank you, Councilmember Hume, for working with me on that.
Thank you.
I attended the TOFA Health and Wealth Fair. It was their 3rd annual Health and Wealth Fair. I also had the opportunity to spend half a day with Miss Shirley Peters from the Greater Sheldon Real Estate Homeowners Association. They gave me a tour of Sheldon Road and history, and it was so enlightening to hear just stories that they had to share. And then I also wanted to ask the chief to chime in. I received several emails from residents who talked about the illegal fireworks that happened. And you had sent us an email, but I thought maybe if you can chime in for those that are here and want to ask about what we're going to do next year, how we're going to be able to tackle that, because I too saw an increase in fireworks, illegal fireworks in the residents and whatnot. And so I think there's a concern all around. If you can chime in on that.
I'd be happy to. In fact, I thought when Councilmember Hume was giving his remarks earlier, that's what he was going to say he saw on his way back home, were the proliferation of illegal fireworks in the community. I will say, I think we've all been involved in some level of correspondence with your constituents and our residents over since the 4th of July holiday regarding what appears to be a pretty dramatic increase in illegal fireworks in the community. I will say, for the record, my own neighborhood, I saw the same thing. So I trust that that's an accurate assessment. We've done some internal analysis of calls for service related to fireworks this year as compared to the previous 2 years, and ironically, the increase in calls was negligible. It was not much higher this year than it has been in past years. But working on the assumption that we can trust our eyes and what we've seen out in the community, I've been speaking with staff internally. I've reached out to the new fire chief, Mike McLaughlin. He and I are going to meet in early August to talk about a collaborative approach to dealing with that issue a little bit differently next year. To be frank, we're challenged by resource allocation on the 4th of July itself. That event at Elk Grove Park, as we mentioned earlier, is a very large event with 20,000+ people that requires essentially an all-hands-on-deck commitment from the police department and other city departments. But that said, we need to do more as it relates to the illegal fireworks next year. So my thumbnail sketch, if you will, at this point, and again, I do have that meeting pending with the fire chief, and we'll collaborate further. But I think we'll take more of a task force approach to dealing with this next year, whereby we commit some police resources, some fire resources. We've had some discussions with Mr. Diller about utilizing some code enforcement folks potentially to be able to have that force multiplier kind of effect and actually put more people out. My other thought is that we do a little bit more via social media and traditional media in advance of the holiday period to let people know the difference. Perhaps some don't know it, I think most do, but to let them know the difference between legal and illegal fireworks, and then also to reassert the message to folks that we're going to take a zero-tolerance approach as it relates to enforcement next year, and, you know, essentially to put folks on notice that if they're inclined to use those illegal fireworks, that we're going to have people out in the community to really proactively and vigorously enforce the law as it relates to those things. Again, I don't have a detailed plan in place as it's only we're only a week removed from the holiday, but I will tell you that we're going to do something different next year.
Thank you.
And I'd just add to that that the chief and I have collaborated offline, and it sounds like his wife is a very creative and intelligent thinker, so we came up with the same idea of maybe employing drones.
Right. Councilmember Hume and I traded a message about, you know, perhaps even using drone technology or other types of technology, you know, to assist with identification of, you know, the locations where that's happening and enforcement. And what I shared with Councilmember Hume is that morning my wife suggested the same thing to me. So I don't know, either they've been talking or great minds think alike. I'm not sure which.
All right. Councilman Sun.
Thank you. Well, I'll just add on to the end of that, you know, someone posted on Facebook, an old-fashioned way, $1,000 fine. So that's quite a big risk. They do that in Monterey, I guess, and, you know, they don't have fireworks over there. Attended a lot of the things that were already mentioned earlier, so I won't belabor on that. Had a chance to visit West Sacramento, where they displayed autonomous transit, and I thought that was an innovative idea. They had, the regs are still out, you know, not approved yet, so it'll be a while before we see these on the streets. But what a neat option for us to connect east and west, or folks to Old Town. So I forwarded the information to Jean Fletta. Hopefully she'll look into it, and we can at least get educated on that technology. I have an American Leadership Forum this week. And then I wanted to clarify something that happened at the Budget Committee meeting, where I was of the understanding that we had flexibility in the way we administer our affordable housing funds, and so I understand maybe that is not the case, and that a budget amendment might be required. And so I would like to get council's consensus to bring this item back for conversation for a budget amendment at the next council meeting on July 26th. The reason being is I think it's important for us to consider how we can take every opportunity for this next funding round of tax credits. We don't know what the future is going to hold in how the tax credit market. Some of you may have heard Janet Yellen talking today about raising rates, and that could affect the tax credit market. So we also have why that's important for folks in the audience. You know, we have something in our consent item today whereby, only due to creativity and the allowance of financing this project, the applicant didn't have to come back to us, the city, and ask for more money because of the depreciation of tax credits that they were using. So I think it's prudent for us to take a look, and so I'd like to get council consensus to bring this back.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good. All right. Let me see, I'll waive all the overlapping items in which, or events that we all attend. About three meetings that I had. One was with the Center for Regional Change, and which is from UC Davis, and I know that they had an initial conversation with the city manager about some potential initiatives and things that they can help us with, and I can certainly take that offline with the city manager to try to brainstorm on some of that. But it was a very productive meeting. They offer their willingness to work with us and to train some of our local residents to work on issues. Also had the opportunity this morning to present to the Rotary Club. I was very fortunate to have an update from Kristen. I know it's always last minute when I'm asking her for help, but I do appreciate it, Kristen. That was very helpful in providing the information to the members of the Rotary Club. The big thing is I was down in Florida at the Mayor's Conference, had an opportunity to meet a number of mayors across the nation, passed a number of resolutions, and for details of the resolutions, you can always go to United States Conference of Mayors for a report out. Too many resolutions to highlight. One in particular that I would like to highlight is the in regards to the Paris Climate Accord. It was the resolution was passed, and at least on the floor, there was no overt opposition to it. But from a visual inspection, it appeared like it was unanimous support for that, calling the Trump administration and also Congress to retract what the Trump administration did push forward a little bit a few months ago. Was it a month or so ago? The conference opened up with the statement that in 30 years, Miami Beach will be underwater. And a number of speakers spoke at that particular event, including the former President of the United States, Bill Clinton. And one thing that I felt that was noteworthy is his statement, which was, you can bring politics into this, but the water level will still continue to rise. And that is all that I have to report, and I believe the Vice Mayor has one more comment.
I was talking with the chief relative to, the council's been a big proponent of cameras throughout the city. And we've seen, the last several meetings, we've had Mr. Champion here in the audience, and then the other one over in Councilmember Hume's district with the problems in their neighborhood. And I think there's a real need for more of the mobile units as well as the fixed units. And I know that the chief is looking at different options, but I want to make sure that we as a council support that concept, and if there's some additional funding that we need to pull together, because he says roughly they plus or minus 50,000 for each one of those units. So if they have one right now, we should probably have a half a dozen. So for $300,000 investment to have a much more secure community and be able to go into hot spots, and I think those are huge deterrents. And not only the deterrent, but the capturing of both facial recognition and license plates gives us opportunities on many fronts. So I would like to, I don't know if that's something we need to bring back, Laura, for a possible amendment to the budget, or if that's something that we can put together. And 'cause I think that's something that we can't wait on. I think that's something, because it takes time to order them, have them built, and get them shipped here.
We can probably have something on for the next council agenda. I would imagine we need a budget amendment for that. And the chief and I can talk offline about sources of funding and whatnot, but we can have something as soon as,
I know he and I talked, and there's
The
some
26th.
areas of seizure funds and things like
Right.
that to look at, but that may not be enough. So I want to make sure that we're able to pull enough resources to if you're going to do it once and do it right for
Right.
the next several years.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep, I support that. Yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention is I brought a copy of best practices for driving economic growth from the conference, and I've put this in front of every member on the council at your leisure. Feel free to read, and you might find some ideas that we might want to adopt here in the city of Elk Grove.
Did you get one for Daryl?
I do. I have an extra one. Yes, I do. All right. Next item.
Take us to Section 8, our consent calendar items.
All right. Want to open for public comment. I see that nobody signed up to speak. Want to close public comment. Council deliberation and a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and move the consent calendar. I would like to comment on item 8.7. I don't wish to pull it.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that as you met Mr. Minima earlier, we're excited to have him at the helm of the project. I think that shifting this responsibility over to the JPA will probably provide some bureaucratic expediency rather than having two agencies having to communicate back and forth. Funding will always be our biggest challenge, but I think that when we go and try to make our compelling case with our funding partners at the state and federal level, having a 5-jurisdiction agency making the ask probably is a little stronger position. And so I think it's a new day, and we're hitting the ground running in this overall. Hopefully, we can claw back maybe some of that time that we lost to this point.
Okay. Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
I'll abstain from 8.9.
All right. Let the record show. Abstention from Councilmember Nguyen. 8.9. All right. Next item.
Take us to section 9, our public hearings, starting with item 9.1, which is a public hearing to consider appeal of Planning Commission approval of the Quick Quack Car Wash, major design review, conditional use permit, and tentative parcel map for project located at 9150 Brucefield Road.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Darcy Glart with the Planning Department. Before you this evening is an appeal of Quick Quack Car Wash. So how the process will work is that this is de novo, which means it's a whole brand-new hearing. So you could either reverse the Planning Commission's decision, you could modify their decision, or you could affirm their decision. So tonight, we will present the appellant's stated grounds for project disapproval. I'll provide you with staff's response to those grounds, and then I'm going to give an overview of the project and the entitlements that are requested. So just a brief synopsis of the Planning Commission meeting, which was on May 18th. The day prior to that meeting, staff did receive a letter from the appellant, which submitted various reasons to deny the project. Their primary reason for objection of the project was that the site was not analyzed as commercial under the 2003 General Plan EIR and thus lacked adequate environmental review. So staff reviewed their letter and provided a response to them on the afternoon of the 18th. And what we provided to them was that the site actually was analyzed as commercial under the 2005 supplemental EIR for a general plan update. During that process, the site was analyzed from going from residential to commercial. That was also subsequently adopted by the City Council. During the meeting, we provided this information to the Planning Commission, giving them an update. The appellant nor any representation from the appellant came to the meeting, and the Planning Commission voted to approve the project 5-0. On the screen before you right now are the various grounds for disapproval outlined in the appellant's letter. The first one being that the Planning Commission's findings that the project is exempt from further CEQA was improper. They stated 3 different reasons for that. The first being, which I already covered, was that the 2003 General Plan EIR did not analyze the site as commercial. The second being that the project is not exempt from CEQA due to significant impacts that are peculiar to the site, so such as traffic, noise, air quality. The third reasoning being is that there are other significant impacts from unusual circumstances. So what the appellant cited in that is that there was recent City Council direction to analyze the site as a medium-density residential property in the general plan update that's currently happening. The second ground for denial was that the Planning Commission's findings in support of approving the conditional use permit were not supported by substantial evidence. Staff's response to these are outlined on the screen before you. So as I did state earlier in response to their first point, that the project was analyzed as commercial office multifamily during the 2005 general plan update in that supplemental EIR. During that process, the site was changed from residential to commercial. The next point was that the commercial development was not contemplated in that 2005 EIR. So through this review process, there were a few different additional points that we hit on in terms of analysis and environmental. The first being is that there was additional analysis that was provided by the applicant during the process to address their vehicle queuing. And what was determined is that typically the site with 3 lanes with 60 feet of queuing per lane could accommodate about 120 vehicles per hour. The typical that a self-serve car wash will see is about 80 vehicles per hour. The site did not generate any additional traffic that warranted further environmental analysis, such as additional traffic studies. The other point that was raised or that we looked at was noise in sense of a car wash and what sort of noise that generates. So what we did is we took a comparative noise analysis. So there was a previous project that we had just processed that had very similar characteristics, a drive-through or a car wash drive-through with queuing distances. That project had 7 vacuums. The project before you tonight, Quick Quack, has 6 vacuums. And what the analysis showed in that is that based upon the overall characteristics, that noise levels were not significantly raised to a threshold level for projects, for this project that was adjacent to 250 feet to a residential neighborhood. So we took that project and compared it to this project. So in this sense, the closest residence to where the vacuums would be located is 300 feet to the north to an apartment complex and 500 feet to the west to single-family residential. So these distances on the Quick Quack project are greater than on the other project that we looked at, showing that there was no noise impact. The next point they discussed was the council's direction to look at this site in the general plan update, and that was the direction that the council gave, and that site is being analyzed. However, that would require a discretionary land use approval, and it's going through the environmental process at this point. So that process has not been completed, and the land does remain as commercial at this point, and we're talking about the surrounding land uses. And in terms of their last item, that actually was a repeat of that very first point that they stated. So again, it was covered under a previous EIR. So we have received a pending application as of yesterday, late afternoon. The appellant did file a general plan amendment and a rezone for this particular surrounding properties that surround Quick Quack to change it from commercial to medium density residential in the general plan and to change the zoning to RD10. So the process for that, as I said, we just received it yesterday. It will be circulated for a 30-day review period. During that time, we will take a look at the environmental. We'll look at previous environmental documentation that has been done on the site and what additional studies are needed in order to support their request to move it forward. So depending upon whatever that required environmental documentation is for their request, it could take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to complete that process. It will go to the Planning Commission with a recommendation to the council. Shifting gears into the actual project and the entitlements that are being requested is a minor design review for a 3,900 square foot car wash, a conditional use permit which is required to operate the car wash in the SC zone, and a parcel map to divide the parcel into 2 roughly equal parcels. Before you on the screen is the project location, which is 9150 Bruceville Road, which is the northwest corner of Laguna and Bruceville. The project would have an entrance off of Bruceville Road. For the minor design review, they are required to do various site improvements such as parking, landscaping, lighting. They have a canopy and a trash enclosure. They will be required to do improvements along Bruceville Road. They will have a left turn pocket into the site off of Bruceville Road, which will meet city standards. In terms of the site layout, they meet the required setbacks, which actually are 25 in the front. All other property lines is a 0 setback. In terms of site characteristics, it's 1.36 acres. They will, which I'll show you on a slide in a little bit, the interim driveway access. They provide 9 parking spaces, 6 of which are for vacuums. They're only required to provide 2. This is a self-service car wash. They do have employees that staff it minimally throughout the day. They will have a 36-foot landscape corridor along Bruceville Road with a separated sidewalk. So before you on the screen right now is an exhibit that shows the driveway conditions. The one to the north and the one to the south circled in green, those are existing driveways into the site at this point. As you can see, this is the proposed Quick Quack car wash site, and the circle here in yellow is an interim temporary driveway into the site, and I'll show you a more detailed exhibit of that. What's in the purple would be a potential future access, which was part of a condition of the overall Laguna Shopping Center that was approved back in 2008. So for the interim driveway, it's a part of their commercial site plan. And the driveway spacing requirements are what causes the issues to have multiple driveways along Bruceville Road. So in the interim, they will have this driveway into their site. In the future, if that surrounding property develops into commercial, the interim driveway would close. That would become more parking and landscaping, and then access would be gained from that northern purple circle. So in the future, if this were all to develop, this gets closed, parking and landscaping, and then access would be obtained to the site from here. So just a more close-up visual of how that interim driveway works. So off of Bruceville Road, there'll be a left turn pocket into the site. Cars could come in here into one of the 3 different drive aisles, place their order for their car wash, and come on through for the car wash, park here to either continue drying or vacuuming, or they could exit the site through this interim driveway. At ultimate build-out, if that site around were to develop as commercial and they were to construct the more permanent driveway, this is the location of the interim, which would now become 3 more parking stalls, landscaping, and then they would access on this driveway to the north. Before you're on the screen are the elevations. I won't go into full detail, but staff did work diligently with the applicant to provide an aesthetically pleasing architecture, provide different elements, blend in with the existing architecture that's there, as well as be complementary to what was previously approved but not yet built. Some more elevations. In terms of the conditional use permit, as I said, this is a requirement for having the car wash on this site. They have the 3 queuing lanes. There are no conflicts with ingress and egress. They do have landscape screening around the site. And the surrounding parcels are zoned commercial, and just to reiterate, we have received that pending application as of yesterday to change those surrounding parcels to a residential zone. The vacuum hours are restricted. Between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. they are required to be turned off. There's a condition of approval that states that. If their hours of operation change, that condition also addresses that these are turned off during closing hours. In terms of the parcel map, it's just a almost even right down the middle parcel split. There are no minimum standards in the SC zone. They will be required to have reciprocal parking and access. A quick quack will be located on parcel 1, and parcel 2 would be developed at a later date. In terms of environmental, we determined that this project is exempt from CEQA based upon the previous 2005 supplemental EIR for the general plan update. And the recommendation by staff is to adopt a resolution denying the appeal, which would affirm the Planning Commission's approval of the project. I can answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Darcy, I've got a couple questions for you. The first being, if you go back to the slide that shows the existing driveways and the future driveways. So you show the interim in yellow, the existing in green, and then the future is a purple. Is that an actual driveway off of Bruceville, or is that only the access between the 2 parcels?
That is a driveway off of Bruceville. The purple one is.
Okay, I see the stop there now, if I look inside the purple circle. Okay. And so then, which of these driveways, current, future, and interim, provide for left-hand access?
The purple and yellow would provide left turn access in. If the interim condition would be the yellow, the left turn pocket would be shortened at that point in the interim to allow that left turn. As soon as, and if the purple driveway is required, that left turn pocket would be extended to accommodate that driveway.
Okay, and so the bottom green driveway does not have a left turn
That's
access
correct.
too close to the intersection?
That is correct.
However, there is a access to the existing commercial site off of Laguna Boulevard farther to the south than what's depicted on this site plan?
That is correct.
And there is a reciprocal access easement between that parcel and this parcel?
Well, they never moved forward with the perfection of the final map for the Laguna Creek Shopping Center. That was a condition of the map. So since they never filed the map, that reciprocal access has not been recorded.
What about for the Walgreens or whatever it is that's on the corner? Is there reciprocal access between those parcels?
I would have to research that one. I don't know if Walgreens
has reciprocal access between Laguna Creek Shopping Center and the Walgreens parcel.
Well, no, I would be speaking to the parcel where the Quick Quack would be located and the Walgreens parcel.
I don't think there exists a reciprocal access agreement, but I can check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Councilman Sun?
Yeah. Darcy, thanks for the presentation. Do we know what the applicant is planning for the remainder of the site?
At this time, no, they have not indicated what would be on the remainder of the site.
Okay. Okay, I'll say my question. Is the applicant here tonight?
The appellant and the applicant are both here.
Okay, I'll say my question for the applicant. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, you good? Good. Okay. All right. No more questions. At this point, I want to declare a public hearing open. I want to invite the applicant, Representative David Greensfelder, to speak.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name's David Greensfelder. We are, my partners and I are the owners of the undeveloped property that is adjacent to the proposed Quick Quack Car Wash. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we also presented. I'm not sure quite how to get to it. Thank you. While Darcy's doing that, I will say that we see the CEQA issues a little bit differently, and we're prepared to go into that in greater detail if you would like us to. But suffice to say that our appeal is based on CEQA reasoning, and we've gone into detail in that in writing. But that's not the tone that we'd like to set for this evening's presentation. I'd like to very briefly go through a history of the project, and rather than read you the bullet points on this and the next two slides, I just would like to say that it's been intimated from time to time in meetings with staff, and I don't know if in the halls of City Council, that we haven't been willing to engage in a conversation with Quick Quack over some of the issues around this development that affect both of our properties. And I know that you've all received copies of this presentation before. This is a summary of our first meeting with Quick Quack, almost 2 years ago, and follow-up that we've done with Quick Quack, and also follow-up that we've done, with staff. Without going into it in detail, I just want to put it out there that we feel that we've really done our best to engage them, tried to engage them directly, tried to engage them through staff, and really do not feel like we've been heard in particular. The other thing that I do want to mention is that at the Planning Commission hearing, I wasn't able to be here. I'm recovering from a back injury, but we did have a representative at the Planning Commission hearing. I unfortunately wasn't able to travel. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the basis of our appeal. And I want to talk about, our going forward plans. And first, I want to say that we respect that staff has said that they need to evaluate this project with respect to the already approved shopping center plan, that they hadn't had a new application. It's part of the reason that we tried to jump through hoops to get an application in, so that ambiguity could be put to rest for this evening's meeting. But suffice to say that retail isn't what it used to be. Retail is contracting. Different categories are contracting. We bought the property assuming that we would do a small retail development that would complement the Donahue Schreiber project across the street. Of course, everybody is aware of Pappas's project about a mile to the south, anchored by Costco. That seems to have sopped up the demand for retail, and it's become clear to us that retail is not really the appropriate use for this property given demand and how the industry is is evolving over time and how we expect it to continue to evolve. I also want to say that we've done everything that we can to show our intent going forward about residential, that we've been in front of you to request that the property be redesignated as part of the general plan update. We've now filed our application, and it's really our intention to bring a well-designed and well-built workforce housing project that's going to be a win for the community. And I was here a couple of years ago for all the RENA discussion. I know that housing is a near and dear issue, and so we're hoping that what we're going to be bringing forward will end up being seen positively. I also want to say that we have no objection per se with the interim plan that Quick-Quack has proposed. We are not here this evening to try to get you to reverse the approval of Quick-Quack. It is aspects of the approval that, on which we want to focus going forward. And what we really want to do is focus on what's called the ultimate plan. That there are ingress-egress issues that create turning movement conflicts for vehicles that we're particularly concerned about. There also is queuing onto Bruceville Road. There are issues regarding queuing. In particular, the Quick-Quack's engineer calculated 40 cars during the weekday PM peak hour and 167 during the weekend peak hour. I think that the 2003 report by, I forget the name of the engineering firm, I think it may have been Smith, Smith Engineering, calculated, it was in the previous presentation, 120 cars. I also want to say, just to take a quick sidebar about the CEQA issues, that Smith Engineering report, which was the basis for Quick-Quack's traffic study conducted by Katie Anderson, the Smith Engineering report was based on the 2003 EIR. And staff had actually pointed us to the 2003 EIR. We learned only at the very last minute that there had been a 2005 update, and that's hence part of the reason that we felt that we were compelled to file an appeal, that we really just didn't have time to be able to address it before the Planning Commission hearing. So that's part of the reason that, that we are here. I've already said that we understand staff wanting to evaluate Quick-Quack's project in light of the approved shopping center plan that was done in 2008. We want to make the point that our concerns apply regardless of whether the project on the vacant property was commercial or residential. We see the same issues, and we think that the same issues need to be addressed. And so here's the crux of the issues. And this again is the ultimate plan after we were to develop our property regardless of whether it was developed as commercial or residential, is that you see in blue the cars that would be entering, they'd be going southbound on Bruceville Road, make a right-hand turn into a shared entry, and then an immediate left-hand turn into the Quick-Quack facility. You would then have the red cars; those would be traveling eastbound, exiting the shopping center. And the way the project, the way the ingress-egress circulation is designed presently, you can see how, particularly during peak hours, which would be the same peak hours as for the shopping center if it were commercial development, and likely the same peak hours if it were residential development, that there would be a conflict. Been designing and developing shopping centers for almost 30 years. This is the kind of thing that we endeavor at all costs to avoid. I used to run real estate for Long's Drugs. We would never allow this kind of a situation to occur in a site plan that we were developing back in those days. What we have done is asked an architect that's an expert in site planning to take a look at the situation and propose something that would solve that conflict. And that's the drawing that you can see to the right. And what this drawing proposes is that the circulation through the Quick-Quack parcel and the undeveloped part of the Quick-Quack parcel would all circulate in a clockwise manner. So the cars would come down Bruceville Road. If they were coming southbound, they would make a U-turn, come down Bruceville Road. If they were coming from the south, northbound on Bruceville, and they would enter between the Quick-Quack parcel and the credit union. They'd turn into the Quick-Quack parcel, they would queue, go through the car wash, and then there would end up being a right-hand turn only exit onto property that the property line actually goes down the middle of that right-hand turn, and then they could make a right-hand turn back out on Bruceville. This would completely eliminate the situation that you see on the right, and is really an illustration of how we think that you could take what is, potentially a dangerous condition, at a minimum, conflicting vehicle movement situation, and eliminate it completely. There are, on this drawing, we just are giving you a little bit of a wider look of the commercial shopping center that we had tried to lease for several years, just so you can sort of see the circulation in a different context. I would like to point out that the commercial project, if this is going to be evaluated as a commercial project, is certainly going to have a higher trip count than the residential project would. So staff is understandably wanting to evaluate this on commercial, at least certainly up until we had our application in yesterday. I think that it makes the point even more compelling that you're going to have more cars because the commercial project would have a higher trip generation rate. I still think it's an issue for residential, which is the direction that we're looking to go, but I did want to make that point. But suffice to say, we think this is a much better plan, and a much better plan for Quick-Quack, much better plan for whatever the ultimate development is for our project, a much better plan for the community. There are 3 conditions of approval that I just wanted to briefly touch on. Number 29, we've not been approached for any of the required easements that would be required before the ultimate plan was put into effect. This condition of approval kind of kicks the can down the street on an issue that can, and we are proposing should be addressed today. On number 30, the ingress, egress, and circulation is shown on the ultimate site plan. As we've stated earlier, is going to result in conflicts. And we see these as liabilities for the owners and the users, and potentially as this, for the city. If there end up being a lot of car crashes, somebody figures that out. Somebody might go back, look at the record, look at the approvals, and I certainly know we don't want to be dragged into a lawsuit as a third party. I feel fairly certain that the city doesn't want to either. It's a distraction that none of us needs, and again, issues that can be resolved today. And then finally, number 31 really goes back to some things that we'd already talked about. So without belaboring the point, we haven't been addressed. Again, this can be fixed today. We have our application in for a rezone for medium density residential to dovetail with the general plan update. Finally, we wanted to present a couple of other alternatives. If, for example, this project was to be residential, one thing that could be done is the city has a 200-foot design guideline, but the guideline is not actually adopted into code. So it is a guideline that we could have a traffic engineer study. You could actually separate the entrance for Quick-Quack from the entrance for the residential. This is something we actually chatted with Quick-Quack about in the hallway before we came in. I think I don't want to speak for them, but I think the message we got back was, well, let's see how the hearing goes. But again, this is another approach for how access and circulation and avoiding those conflicts might be resolved. Just trying to catch up and making sure I'm. And again, here is, here is another plan that was discussed with Quick Quack, back in January of this year. And this is a plan where further refinement of this plan, with a driveway going into the middle of the Quick Quack parcel, and then us having a separate entrance to the future residential to the north, you might end up also solving the conflict issue. So the development plan that we're proposing, as we've said, is for medium density residential. Our application for rezone's been submitted. Tentative subdivision map is forthcoming. Again, better planned access arrangements would serve everybody's interest. We think that conditions of approval 29, 30, 31, and 37 could be modified by you. This is a de novo hearing, such that the potential conflicts and dangerous turning movement issues would cease to be an issue. And we truly think that, as we have been trying for 2 years, that our developments should be better coordinated than they are now. So, the upshot: what are we asking of you? Again, this appeal hearing is a de novo hearing. We did not take lightly appealing. We're developers ourselves. We get appealed. Nobody likes being appealed, and we get that. However, we're not asking you tonight to say yes or no. We have a suggestion, a proposal, and the proposal is that what we're really asking you to do is continue this hearing to a future date. And then further, we're asking you that you direct us and Quick Quack to sit down at the table with staff and figure out a solution that we can all bring back to you and say, you know what, we're all in agreement on this solution. If we need to have a traffic engineer come in and opine an opinion on what we come up with, we're more than happy to do our part of that or pay our fair share of the cost of doing that. But to come back to you with something that solves these issues, where you can then have the gavel come down on a project for Quick Quack that's going to end up solving future issues that, again, should be addressed today to really everybody's benefit. I'd be more than happy, again, as I said, if you'd like to, for me to address some of the CEQA issues in more detail, be happy to do that, or if there are any other questions, either now or as we go on through the hearing, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Mayor?
Question? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, David.
I did put together a meeting for you and Quick Quack before the Planning Commission meeting to do exactly what you recommended, and obviously it didn't happen. It didn't work.
It happened, unfortunately.
So what makes you believe it's going to be any different?
Well, I think that I think that meeting happened not terribly long before the Planning Commission meeting. I was on the phone for the meeting, unfortunately, because again, I was homebound with an injury. The conversation went on for about an hour. What I heard over the phone was Quick Quack basically say, you know what, I think we're not interested in making any changes at this time, and we're just going to go forward to Planning Commission. I think the thing that would be different this time is that if you directed the parties to take this out in the hall and figure it out and come back with something, the implication is that you're expecting the issues to be resolved. And if I were the applicant, if I were Quick Quack, that would have an impact on me. I would be more motivated to pull up to the table, willing to pull some trace out of my briefcase and lay it across the plan and see if we could figure something out that would work. So I think it would absolutely be different.
Well, I guess my disappointment is taking the time to put that together and not having there was no modifications on anybody's part prior to that hearing. Also, you said you had somebody at the Planning Commission meeting. Did you ask for a postponement at that time?
I didn't. I wasn't at the meeting. We had a representative here, and I don't know if they asked for postponement at that time or not.
My understanding, they didn't even know that there was a representative
Yeah,
there.
I can't, I wasn't here, so I can't address that, unfortunately.
Vice Mayor Director, I can chime in. I was at the Planning Commission meeting. If there was a representative there, no representative spoke on their behalf.
So, I mean, I guess I'm confused. There was a meeting beforehand, the opportunity at the Planning Commission to ask for a postponement at that time, rather than to let it go through, have it all approved at the Planning Commission level, and then to come back, say, now we want to appeal it with no representation during the meeting, I guess is a little frustrating from my end to hear that.
And Vice Mayor, I can appreciate that. All I can tell you is that if I had physically been able to be at that meeting, and I did send a written statement into the council because I could not be there in person, imploring the Planning Commission to, please hear our point of view. So I did what I was physically able to do under the circumstances. I understand the frustration, and I understand and respect the frustration. Nonetheless, we are where we are. My understanding is that what I asked to be read at the Planning Commission was not read at the Planning Commission. I'd sent an email in asking for my statement to be read. It was not read into the record. So I can't comment further on.
Jason, was that included in the record? Do you recall, or John?
I defer for what was done at the Planning Commission, but mostly when we do receive letters or correspondence, they are included as part of the agenda packet materials and circulated to staff and the council.
I did not see any correspondence that was submitted to be read into the record. The city did receive written comments in advance of the Planning Commission meeting, the day before the Planning Commission, evening before the Planning Commission meeting. Staff, including myself, responded to those comments to the attorney and representative for the appellant now, than the opponent of the project.
Was that green sheeted to the Planning Commission?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so it was made available to all the planning commissioners and part of the record for that evening.
So that was if I had been able to be there in person, you would have heard me say what you're discussing. Again, there was an attorney had sent a letter in. Our land use attorney sent a letter in, and I also sent correspondence in personally, addressing exactly the point that you're bringing up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
Hi, David. Thanks for coming out tonight, making it here. I was wondering, I understand you submitted an application for the rezone, but there was no site plan that accompanied it. Can you explain why? And if you have one, would you be willing to share it, I guess?
Yes, there was a basic site plan showing the area to be rezoned. The tentative parcel map is forthcoming, or tentative map, I guess I should more accurately say, is going to be forthcoming. But we were trying to, in a good faith manner, demonstrate our intent going forward. Again, that's part of the reason that I made the point that regardless of whether this is going to be evaluated as an adjacent commercial project or as an adjacent residential project, the issue of the conflicts still exist. And I just can't stress enough, the point of this appeal is not to kill a project. The point of this appeal is to correct a flawed design feature in the project so that it will serve all the parties and the community better. If it's going to be evaluated because of where we are in the application process for the residential project as a commercial project, I think that it actually becomes more of an issue because there are higher traffic generation rates for the commercial project. We're happy to have it looked at as either. The issue still exists regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, this time I'd like to invite the applicant, project representative, John Walters.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and members of the City Council. Ryan Hooper with the Law Offices of Gregory Thatch here this evening. Happy to be representing Quick Quack Car Wash on its Bruceville Road project. I wanted to just take a minute and step back and talk about Quick Quack and the fact that it's been processing its application for 2 years with a focus with staff on the design, which I think you see a very enhanced project design over what is sometimes been proposed in other communities, as well as a focus on traffic. There's been a lot about discussion about traffic tonight already, and we've worked very diligently with staff to address that in conjunction with our own memo with the traffic consultant's memo, as well as staff's analysis. Everybody feels very comfortable with both the interim and the ultimate configuration. I also want to just say Quick Quack is a great company. It's known for its community involvement. They're excited to bring their first Elk Grove location to Bruceville Road. It'll bring revenues, it'll bring jobs, but they're also good neighbors in the sense that they're a good operator. They run an environmentally clean outfit. They recycle 90% of their water. I think that's a very important statistic to keep in mind. The project has staff's full support. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this project. And now I want to switch to the appeal. What we're seeing with the PowerPoint presentation, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I do have the facts. And what we're seeing with the appeal is an argument that this project should be evaluated in the context of a general plan designation that doesn't even exist for that property. That's just simply not the law. The law compels the city to review the project in the context of its approved general plan. That is what was done here. And so to evaluate it on some other basis is just not permissible under the law. I can appreciate the fact that they ran to drop in an application last night yesterday for the rezone and for the general plan amendment for the property. However, it's simply too late to have a bearing on this project. The law provides certainty to applicants by having a cutoff time. There has to be a point in time in which you're evaluating a project and you have to stop looking at new things that are coming in. And the law has decided that that point in time is when your application is deemed complete. Quick Quack's application was deemed complete long ago, long before the application or even the direction from council to look at medium density residential was implemented. In addition, this medium density residential, appellant's free to pursue that. We have no issue with them pursuing that, but we have to put it in context. It is simply a study right now. It's being studied by the general plan, and I think that it's highly speculative to assume that it will ultimately be that the general plan update will be approved with that designation. We don't know. We haven't concluded or even embarked upon much environmental analysis at this time. So to say that we should slow down and stop in order to evaluate a general plan land use designation that doesn't even exist today for that surrounding property is not the way to proceed, and it's not legally permissible. I also want to say what we're seeing here sounds very reasonable on its face. Let's talk, let's meet. We have. We've met a multitude of times with the appellant. Several of those meetings have included staff. We have offered to help fund some of the cost of the ultimate improvements in order to avoid the throwaway costs associated with the interim plan. We couldn't come to an agreement. I don't think that an agreement here through a delay or a continuance would be something that we would all be in favor of. I think it's just more of the same. They have a very well-established pattern of delay, and we're seeing it just in the way that this is unfolding. Day before the Planning Commission meeting, you get a letter. Then it's radio silence until yesterday, the day before the City Council meeting. Then another 21-page PowerPoint comes out. If they were so eager to work with us, they would have reached out during that interim time. We did not hear anything from the appellant from the time of the appeal until today. All along, meeting after meeting, to no avail. And so at this point, we would simply ask that you approve the project. As the appellant even acknowledged, they have no problem with the interim plan. And if you approve the project tonight, as we urge you to do, It does not foreclose the opportunity for us to work and continue to work on an agreement. In fact, I would argue that it would maybe enhance the opportunity for us to have a more candid conversation and a more legitimate expectation of a resolution to the ultimate configuration. Approval does not preclude fixing the ultimate configuration down the line. And so with that, I would like to step back and just answer any questions that you might have on this appeal.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. Yeah,
Nice
thanks.
to see you as well.
Thanks. So a couple questions. I was able to take a look or drive by the Arden and Watt location of Quick Quack, and I was frankly impressed. It's a pretty good looking facility. I was wondering do you know the size of that particular? What I'm trying to do is compare. Is about the same amount of area as this one would be, because it's only taking half the parcel?
I'm going to defer to Efrain Corona with Quick Quack Car Wash, who's here tonight, who can answer more specific questions relative to the site plan and the operational component. Efrain, if you'd step up. What I can tell you, though, is relative to stacking, for example, we are triple the city standard for parking, or for stacking at this location. Worked very hard with lining up the queuing, the left turn in, making sure we had those 3 lanes so that we could adequately get cars in and out. And relative to that quick left turn into the project on the ultimate configuration, staff feels very comfortable that with striping and signage, that they can address that as they do in other areas of town and other projects. So with that, I'll defer to Efrain on the size of the site.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Efrain Corona with Quick Quack Car Wash. To answer your question, the Watt Avenue site is a little bit larger. We've got some width on that site where we're able to place our vacuums adjacent to the building. We've got about 11 vacuum stalls there, and this current site, I believe, has six vacuum stalls. A little bit smaller. The footprint of the building is relatively the same. The stacking is relatively the same. And the operation of the building will be almost identical.
Okay, so I'm definitely more concerned about the stacking. So I'm hearing it's about the same. And at that point in time, it was just on my way over here towards the end of the day, and it was flowing fine. The other question I had was this is only half the parcel. Can you answer what the rest of the parcel will be?
So we're not the applicant for that parcel. We have been working closely with the current owner. My understanding is they're attempting to do some type of retail there.
Some type of retail?
But they haven't shared with us any ultimate plans.
Okay. And then finally, I don't think this is a Quick Quack, is it? Is it truly a Quick Quack?
That is actually a Quick Quack located in Amarillo, Texas.
Okay.
And that particular building there was an acquisition. So it was an existing car wash that we acquired. We revised it, and typically we do a pretty large grand opening plan. So we apply for temporary sign permits so we can have things like that there during the grand opening process.
Okay. Well, this is actually a perfect example, and I'd like hoping you would, if this is approved, for the conditional use permit, added condition about preservation of the architectural elevation. And if you can look on here, you could see the rust that's kind of forming out over there. So if this is approved, would you be willing to entertain an added condition to your CUP that the quality of the exterior is maintained and so it doesn't get run down over time?
I've got no issues with that. That particular building is probably about close to 10 years old.
Okay.
And again, it was an acquired building. It wasn't one that we built.
No worries.
We're taking a lot of different construction tasks into consideration when we do our design so that we don't have issues like that.
Perfect.
We have no metal in the building whatsoever, so that there is no rust issue. Our goal is to have our customers go through the showroom and not see all the metal. We want them to see bright, clean, and see their car being soaped up and cleaned up. So there's no metal in the building. There's some on the exterior that we have, but it's not exposed to the car wash facility from the inside, so there's no rusting going on.
Okay. But you'd be willing to accept that
Sure.
additional condition? Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Mayor. My question's for Mr. Hooper, so thank you, appreciate it, Mr. Cronin. Ryan, first of all, I appreciate you kind of outlining what the law compels and also what it disallows. I find that very helpful. And the fact that whatever we approve tonight does not necessarily preclude how it gets amended in the future. But I want to ask a question that I asked staff earlier, because it looks like on the schematics, both the interim and the, what you call the ultimate, that there is a driveway punching down to the south through the remainder parcel. Does that connect up with existing?
It does not connect up with our parcel. There's a spite strip, as they call it, in between the edge of that driveway and the area between there and our parcel. That's why the conditions of approval for the Laguna Creek, the larger shopping center, has a condition of approval that requires that they ultimately give us a right of access through a reciprocal easement there.
Okay, so eventually it will connect up, but not as a part of this improvement.
Correct. We don't have control over it, and that's why.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, I want to open for public comment. Seeing that there are no members of the public signed up to speak, I want to close public comment. I want to invite the appellant back up.
Thank you very much. I would like to make a few comments to the applicant's presentation. I appreciate that Quick-Quack feels comfortable with the plan. It's their plan. And I also appreciate that they like to be a good neighbor. I would like to say for the record that we have also tried to be a good neighbor, but we don't feel that that's been reciprocated, and that's part of the reason that we're here this evening. As far as the applicant's attorney saying that you can't evaluate this with respect to a general plan designation that doesn't exist, we're more than happy to stipulate for the record that we can evaluate this with respect to the current general plan designation and the current entitlements. I again want to point out that that general plan designation and those entitlements come together with a much higher trip generation rate than what we're ultimately proposing to do. But if that's how the applicant would like it evaluated, I'm more than happy for it to be evaluated that way, and I'm more than happy to stipulate to that for the purposes of this evening's conversation. You know, we have tried to work with the applicant on new circulation. We have been told that when the interim driveway is closed off and the ultimate plan goes into effect, that that's going to give the applicant the opportunity to add additional vacuums. That was a conversation that was actually had in the hallway before council this evening. We just simply don't feel that that's looking at the concept of fungibility, we don't feel that our property being used so that the applicant can have additional vacuums is necessarily a good use of our property. I think that's an important point to make. I think that the applicant says that they'll have plenty of incentive to work with us once they're approved. I think that that's absolutely not the case. Once they're approved, they're approved. There's absolutely zero incentive to work with us, and we've been trying to work with the applicant. At the last meeting, the meeting, Mr. Vice Mayor, that you helped arrange, the applicant said, we have no interest in making any changes. I don't see, if they had no interest in making any changes before they're approved, why they would have any interest in making any changes after they're approved. With respect to the project at Arden and Watt, I do want to point out that There may not be any stacking or circulation issues there, but the restaurant immediately to the north of that facility and the anchor to that shopping center are both dark. I think that restaurant is just reopening as we speak. So, again, it's kind of hard to evaluate, stacking and circulation as an analog to what may or may not happen here. As far as Mr. Humes, I think you asked the question about the driveway to the south. We've never been asked for access to that driveway. I am, for the record this evening, we will grant access to that driveway. If the applicant were to ask and it was part of a solution that would work well for everybody, we'd have absolutely no problem creating reciprocal access for that driveway today. If that was part of solving the traffic conflict issue, and I'm putting that forward on the record, if for no other reason than to demonstrate our good faith intent in front of you here this evening. And then finally, we are not questioning whether or not they have enough stacking on site. They say they have enough stacking on site at 167 cars an hour. I'm not sure what the throughput is on the car wash, but let's just stipulate for the record that they have enough stacking queuing space on site. Our issue is getting the people on site so that they can queue. We're worried about people not being able to get out of our project. We're worrying about traffic conflicts, and we're worried about queuing going back out onto Bruceville Road, creating a dangerous situation, potential traffic blockage, as people are trying to figure out how to get on site so that they can queue. If there was an organized way to get people on site, which is really what we're trying to propose with the picture on the right, then I think there would probably be no issue. And then finally, and again, I just want to bring this up. Katie Anderson is Quick Quack's traffic engineer. Katie Anderson based their analysis on Smith Engineering's report, and the Smith Engineering report was based on the 2003 EIR, which the applicant and staff have pointed out was the wrong EIR. So it's quite possible that Quick Quack's traffic calculations are not based on the correct baseline data in the first place. And perhaps that's a reason that we need to be going back and taking a second look at this. And so, if you go and look at the findings in the proposed resolution, it becomes difficult to make some of the, one of the CEQA findings, it becomes difficult to make finding number 4 under the minor design review, and finding number 2 under the conditional use permit. Again, I didn't come here to get into a tit for tat on CEQA. I came here to say we can do better. It will end up being better for Quick Quack. It will end up being better for us. It will end up being better for the community. And we're asking you to send the children into a room and tell them to work out their differences until they can shake hands. Thank you.
I have a question, David.
Yes.
But before, I wanted to first ask staff, just for quickness, what are the hours of operation of Quick Quack? Proposed hours?
7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
7 a.m. to 9 p.m.? Okay. Okay. Well, I guess my question would be if this was a residential project and the council made a direction about general plan update, so I think the intent could be construed as there. But if you consider the timing of traffic and when people leaving and going to work versus the hours of operation of Quick Quack, do you still, you've mentioned traffic a lot, so I'm trying to intuitively, do you anticipate a lot of conflicts at this location?
Well, on weekdays, the PM peak hour is likely to be same for residential and for commercial traffic. On weekends, it's hard to say whether the residential peak hour would be the same as the commercial peak hour. But again, I want to try to remove as much muddy water as I can. So while I very much appreciate the question that you're asking, but again, I'm willing to stipulate for the conversation that, we have a general plan designation, we have an approved project, which is all commercial. If that's the way this project and that's the way your deliberation, that's what your deliberation needs to be based upon. Again, it's all the peak hours will end up being the same, whether it's weekday or weekend, and you're going to end up having more cars rather than less that are potentially in conflict with each other. So I think that the rhetorical argument that that we've got I kind of felt like we were doing Quick Quack a favor by suggesting that we evaluate this as residential. But if it's got to be evaluated as commercial, then peace. Let's evaluate it as commercial. So I'm sorry, I hope I didn't deviate too far. Did I answer enough of your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Councilman Young.
Yeah, I have a question for the city attorney as far as, can you address Mr. Greensfelder's point about the Smith report, or one traffic study being based on the Smith report and the Smith report being based on the earlier general plan?
Let me try if I can do that, because I was just looking at the Katie Anderson traffic analysis that was included in your packet and was relied upon as part of the Planning Commission deliberations. I don't see a reference to the 2003 general plan update in there, so I'm not seeing that it was, that the 2003 general plan update was the basis for that analysis. What I do see is analysis relied upon for the ITE schedules, which is a trip generation manual that engineers use for figuring out trip generation for different types of uses. And it looks like, looking quickly at the traffic analysis, that the traffic analyst did traffic counts in October of 2015, which would have freshened the trip counts and trip analyses for that study. But even if it did look at the 2003 general plan update, I'm not sure that makes a difference, because in fact what we do now know is that the 2005 general plan, or I said 2003 general plan update, 2003 general plan, the 2005 general plan update did in fact look at this site as a commercial site and did analyze the traffic then, and that's the coverage that the city and the city staff are relying upon as being adequate for purposes of the CEQA analysis.
So both sites had been analyzed as each developing commercial, and the traffic analysis cleared CEQA at that level.
That's
with
correct.
Both of them being commercial. And then, so the assertion that the commercial would be higher trip generations, the assumption that it would go to a medium family residential would be lower trip generations, and so therefore the CEQA works even better,
I think that helps from a CEQA coverage standpoint, absolutely, because if we start with the assumption, and I think that he's correct, that commercial would have higher trip generations, and that's what was analyzed, then you have CEQA coverage for that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to, may I follow on that just briefly? I think what I was trying to point out is that, we've had a lot of talk about CEQA and should it be analyzed as commercial, should it be analyzed as residential. My point was really that there's ambiguity, and and it's really a judgment call. At the end of the day, the reason we're here is to create safe and efficient ingress, egress, and circulation with respect to that one entry point.
Well,
that's the goal.
And that's why I was trying to drill down on that, because you're absolutely correct on that point. I think the CEQA argument is a little bit specious, and I've heard that from our city attorney, that the CEQA actually improves if we take into consideration your preferred use, the application that you put into for a zoning change. But what Mr. Hooper stood at that podium and said is that CEQA actually compels that you must study the existing designations, and you cannot come in after the fact of a certain cutoff point, which is when the application is deemed complete, and change the study on that application at that point.
Right.
So for me, CEQA has been set aside. Okay, so if you want to talk about circulation, let's talk about circulation, because I think you make some valid points there.
I mean, to me, this entire conversation is the red versus the blue. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we're concerned about. We're not trying to kill a project. We're trying to improve a project.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. I'd like to invite the applicant.
Hello again. I wanted to address Councilman Detrick's point about the meeting that you facilitated, the call, Quick Quack wouldn't play ball. Well, the context of that is that the appellant was willing to work with us so long as we gave them control over architecture, setbacks, and other development standards, which was unacceptable to Quick Quack, and hence is another example of why these meetings don't go anywhere. And so I also want to just to not belabor the CEQA point, but I think to counter what he just said, it's not ambiguous in the least. The law is extremely clear on this point, and so I take exception to that. I just wanted to end by saying this is a challenging site. This is a little parcel that has no access other than the interim access, and it legally has to be able to stand on its own. We cannot be made to require the consent of somebody else in order to ensure our ability to develop that site. That's why we have the interim site. Also, I represented the project back when it was originally approved, the commercial project on that site back in 2008. We had the same issue then. We had Abe Alizada that owned the project that wasn't moving forward with it. We had no ability to work on any kind of real ultimate access point. So city staff worked with us to come up with a very similar configuration as what you see tonight as the interim plan. And for all we know, this could remain undeveloped for some period of time. It could, I don't want that to be the case. Obviously, it would work much better if we could sort of integrate and be synergistic. But the reality is we have no guarantees as to what is going to happen with that surrounding project site over time. And so I think that, again, we urge you, please don't continue this project. It's been too long. We've worked too hard. And like I said, your action to approve the project tonight in no way impedes our ability to work together with the appellant in the future. And he said that we wouldn't have the incentive. I think we have every incentive to make sure that our customers can get the best ingress and egress from that site possible. So with that, I will end unless you have any further questions or comments.
I have a question for you. So ultimately, the way it is right now, if this were to be approved tonight, you have the interim ingress and egress on the north part of the property. Once that gets developed, whatever the final agreement is, when that map is recorded by the appellant, then you would have ingress and egress from both the north and south at that point, correct?
Yes, the conditions of approval of their current project require such.
And is your project already recorded the ingress egress to the appellant?
No, we don't have an approved project in order to do that. As we move forward to record our map, we would need to comply with our conditions of approval prior to that time.
Okay, so you made a comment earlier, if I understood correctly, that you made an attempt to not have to install the interim driveway if you could go to the expense on your side and have the ingress and egress on the north side, and you would put in all the driveway aprons and everything to feed the ultimate of both projects, correct?
We see no value in funding throwaways. And anything in the interim configuration is a throwaway, a cost that we're going to rip up and change in the future. And therefore, one of the conversations with the appellant earlier on was, hey, can we work a deal on the ultimate access now? We'll even fund a portion of that. And those talks went nowhere. And so we had to go back to just relying on our interim approach and just deal with that and then address the future ultimate access point at such time as that ultimate future project moves forward.
Because, personally, I'd like to see something done once and done right, rather than
Agreed.
2 times, because it also sounds like it affects, from what I think Darren said, it affects the left turn pocket, have to be shorter in the interim and then lengthen it potentially in the future.
I couldn't agree more. We'd love to avoid the throwaway costs, but we just have been unable to get the agreement of the adjacent property owner to date, and fear that further delay will only impinge. This project's already been significantly delayed, and so the project needs to be able to stand on its own. And if in the future we can work out a situation for either the current ultimate access or some modified version of it, then that would be great.
John, I would assume that if the appellant, chose to, they could give ingress and egress rights now. They don't have to wait till their project to be finished, correct?
They could do that, yes.
So that would be my ultimate goal, to see if that could be worked out, and then continue to have staff work with both you and the appellant to come up with.
Well, if they give it to us now or they give it to us later, they're still giving it to us. And so by moving forward now and allowing us to proceed with the interim plan and then working with them, I mean, they're going to process the plans. We can work together to see if there's a more ultimate solution that would work.
Yeah, because you probably have what's the time frame from approval till you'd be doing the,
Typically, it'd be about 100 days to process the plans, and then 100 days to get underway with the
so that's not a
construction.
lot of time to get those changes made. So
Agreed. We also have a lengthy experience with this appellant, and I just want to go back into the manner in which they've demonstrated they're wanting to work with us, letters the day before the hearings, the nature and tenor of the meetings we've had, it has not been genuine. And so I'm very hesitant to agree to go anywhere towards a further compromise and holding up of the project at this point. I really feel strongly that if we can get our project approved, have our interim access point, it puts everybody on a much more level playing field to come up with some alternative ultimate design.
no, and I agree, because, I hate to use the term, but it's sometimes, don't tell me what you're going to do, show me. And that's what I would like to see all the parties do. And I think the potential's there. I mean, I know where you guys are at. I think you guys got a great project, and
And I think an even playing field would help facilitate that.
I agree. Okay.
Okay, another question? Go ahead, Councilman Young.
Question, I don't know if it's for you or for our staff, but is there a reason why the interim solution has to be the interim solution? Couldn't you put in what would be the ultimate solution and grant ingress and egress to the other parcel?
Because we don't own or control the other parcel, so.
I understand that, but so you would put in the final solution, we would make it work, because here's what I'm going to go back to. I think the green and the red, or the blue, the blue and the red does show some problematics. Whereas I think if the people using the other parcel were coming in and making a right-hand turn into their parcel and then stopping before coming out to make a left-hand turn to exit, that's probably a better traffic flow. So is there a reason that the driveway that you're putting in as the interim solution could not be modified to be the ultimate solution and just basically flip which parcel is granting the other parcel ingress and egress?
I defer to staff on that. I believe that I think that there was a problem relative to the spacing of the driveway, so I don't know how that would get worked out relative to city standards.
Yes, when we reviewed the interim solution, it did reduce the spacing. However, we are acceptable with that spacing with the southern driveway.
For the turn pocket of the northbound traffic?
Yes, not only that, but the spacing between the interim driveway and the Safe Credit Union driveway, the existing driveway, because it goes down to about 175 feet. Our standard is 200 feet, but that's acceptable in some conditions because this parcel is a kind of a postage stamp parcel, single parcel. There's different stipulations in our standards that allow the director to reduce that spacing.
Well, right across the street, you have a ridiculous situation where the driveways are right next door to each other and they go to different parcels.
Yeah.
And don't connect to each other at all. If this driveway were modified to be the permanent solution, do you think that there's a more elegant design that would make the traffic flow better than what's being proposed?
I think there's a more elegant design with the permanent location or the ultimate location without blocking left turn access into Quick-Quack.
So, okay, then to kind of go back to the vice mayor's point on doing things once and also going to Mr. Hooper's point on not being sort of held hostage in this process and moving forward, do you feel comfortable that if we move forward with just what's being proposed, that then as the larger project comes forward, we can massage that in a way to get that better, more elegant design?
I feel very comfortable with that. In fact, I'm comfortable with the interim being the ultimate for Quick Quack. If there comes a solution that the surrounding properties say access off of Laguna Boulevard instead of Bruceville. Keep in mind, there's 2 existing access points off of Bruceville now. There's 2 existing access points off of Laguna right now. So not all the traffic's going to ingress and egress out of, the Quick Quack traffic would ingress and egress out of this driveway, but not all of the surrounding project would.
And so I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that the reason that that design would not be desirable for the surrounding property owners is because then they would lose that left-in access. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Darren, what about the one proposal that had Quick Quack staying where it's at, the south driveway's already in, and then another driveway for their project, and they showed 150-foot spacing. Is that something that,
Well,
could work in a reasonable manner?
Well, I'd have to work with the traffic engineer and Public Works. What they do show is a 150-foot from center line to center line. Our requirement is actually 200-foot clear.
Is that a preferred design, or is there, in traffic, is there a minimum standard that would normally be applied?
I'd have to defer to our traffic engineer, but there's cases where you could possibly put in a right turn pocket to reduce that spacing. But I'd like to defer to Ryan Chapman.
Ryan Chapman with Public Works. Yes, with the construction of right turn pockets and looking at what trip generations we're going to actually be looking at the other parcel, it would be possible to reduce that 200-foot clear to something less.
I just wanted to add that whether it's the current configuration of their shopping center, which we can work together on and see if a compromise can be made, or if it's part of their new, as of yesterday, application for a rezone and a general plan amendment in the future of MAP, it provides the city yet another opportunity to work with the parties and try to come up with something that is more appealing to the city.
Or can you live with that being the ultimate, the interim one being the permanent driveway, and you close off the other side with?
I would have to confer with my client, but I think that from a practical standpoint, what we're doing now is limiting, and I'm not being argumentative, but just kind of practically thinking it through, where you've got a left turn lane into the project site and everything's contained and you're not getting any of the benefits of pass-through. You're forcing cars to go back out onto Bruceville that may want to go into that shopping center as, part of a,
But if it's gonna go residential, I know that we're not analyzing that part, but just hypothetically, that those people wouldn't be going back into the residential side, but.
I'll defer to Efrain
Well, and the
to
reason I'm
comment
saying
on
that, if we were able to get an intermediate driveway further north, and you don't have that same common driveway, because of how it sets their project up, everything would be separate and there would be no
But I
issue.
guess unless their project ever goes forward, either commercial or residential, the interim is our permanent until such time as something comes through and gets approved.
The problem with that, Vice Mayor, and that's why I asked the question, is I assume both property owners covet that left-hand turn pocket. And so if you make that left-hand turn pocket only available to this parcel, then now you've taken away a traffic movement for the other parcel. That's why I was asking if the interim solution would become the permanent solution, but still allow ingress and egress to the larger parcels.
So, I think, and I agree with Mr. Hume, I think we're restricting 2 parcels at that point, if we go that direction. The left turn lane that we're proposing to build is benefiting both parcels. And, they would lose that benefit. And on top of that, there's no incentive for them to work with us on giving us access to the southern parcel as well, the Safe Bank portion.
Other than that, I heard Mr. Hooper say that they are conditioned to do that when that parcel develops from a previous condition.
The current approval also conditions access on the northern portion of our property.
But you would be voluntarily giving that up, not them preventing you from having it.
We would be giving up voluntarily
The
northern
northern access.
access? We are currently giving that up. Well, we don't have that right now. 'Cause
Right?
there's
I mean,
no-
but
there's
you
no
see what
period.
I'm saying? It's not that they would be preventing, and so they wouldn't be in violation of a condition of approval. You would be redesigning your parcel to function without that northern connection.
We currently have that now. That's
Right.
what we've done.
Right, exactly. That's
but-
the interim solution, would be the permanent solution.
Right.
So I guess for me,
I'd also like to state that, cross-access through all the parcels benefits everybody. And specifically for our customers, everybody has to make a right-hand turn coming out of that site either way. And if there's no reason for them to give us access to the southern parcel, that is now again restricting our customers and our movements.
so I don't think anybody's arguing that point. The southern connection will be made regardless in any scenario. What we're looking at is how to solve this northern choke point. I think the CEQA argument, and it's unfortunate because this is all a matter of timing. We've indicated in our general plan process that we'd like to change it over to residential zoning. The applicant has recognized the drying up of demand for retail. They'd like to change it to residential zoning. If that were the case and in place today, this project would be conditioned to do different things than what it's being conditioned to do. However, as was pointed out, under CEQA, you cannot condition a project based on hypotheticals. And so we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, but I think what all of us are struggling with, or at least what I'm struggling with, and I'm hearing questions that lead me to believe others are as well, is that there are some problems with how the circulation as being proposed will function, in the ultimate design.
You talking about for both parcels?
Yeah. And so, I think I have a comfort level after having questioned staff that if we move forward with what's in front of us today, there are larger issues, and this is the children go to the room and get it figured out point. There are larger issues that we recognize are an issue, staff recognizes an issue, the appellant recognizes an issue, and so when the rest of the parcels come forward, maybe it's solved at that point. But I don't see anything necessarily compelling me to not move forward with what's being proposed as an interim.
Well, that's why my recommendation would be support this project as it sits, and then work with the appellant and staff to open up both ends. Get those agreements made, get those done, so that the final, at that point, you don't have to have throwaway work if you can come to an agreement. If not, if you can't come to an agreement, you're self-contained.
I would like to make one point also. In the last meeting we had with staff and with the appellant, staff came up with another potential solution where you see the red line here is adding a stop line at that point.
Yeah,
So
right.
that
I thought of that
traffic,
too.
so
Yeah.
that traffic coming southbound on Bruceville coming into our site would have free flow. There's nobody stacked in the opening. They would be stopped at a stop sign, stop bar, however it would be required us to build it. And at that same time, we would even, as we've offered in the past, to pave that area that is currently off our site so that there would be no conflicts at that point.
I think Vice Mayor's point is a good one, because, when I'm seeing when I'm picturing this in my mind, I don't know how many of you, if you've been there, but Natomas Marketplace is notorious for as soon as you turn in there, you got everybody stacked up wanting to turn left to go to In-N-Out, and it clogs the entire rest of the access to the site. And so I do believe that this is problematic. I do believe something needs to be addressed there. Can we approve a hypothetical? Can we approve what's before us and task them to go and come up with something that's better, and then they just know that that's approved by right?
I think we can accept the interim solution and work with both the applicant and the appellant to come up with a practical solution. As gentleman from Quick Quack stated, there's many ways to design this, and Mr. Greensfelder, and appreciate his design as well. That works, but obviously it doesn't work for Quick Quack because it takes their left access away. So there is a practical solution, but it's most difficult when we don't have another project to analyze it against.
Sure.
Yeah.
And at that point, would that become a ministerial decision that staff could say, yes, this meets the needs?
It's actually in the conditions that provides flexibility for the ultimate location. In fact, the interim solution is, the ultimate solution is not an obligation. It has some qualifiers like may, to the acceptable, something to acceptable to the city. The city may not require it. We made it flexible for a reason.
Okay, I'm comfortable.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Nope, thank you.
Actually, well, my question's for staff, so I just want, Ryan, you heard the appellant's concerns on the modifications of the conditions. Have you, obviously, we haven't heard from you, but I just want, for the record, so everybody else can hear, you guys don't feel the same way as the appellant does in this case?
That is correct. I believe a lot of the issues that are being presented could be addressed with signage and striping, and we don't necessarily need to look at some of these other extra driveways.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Want to declare public hearing closed. Any additional deliberation from council and/or direction?
Well, I'll just add on to Councilman Hume's point, the Thomas example, I remember before they put that stop sign in and how bad it was, and it dramatically improved traffic flow when they added that stop sign. So there's a lot of traffic that goes in and out of that location, and I would also appreciate Vice Mayor's perspective as well. I think, if you go forward and allow them to work it out behind the scenes before you build anything, is I think what you were trying to say, then we can find a solution, so.
Well, time is of the essence, and if you can work it out, I'll make a motion to take staff's recommendation, and hopefully we can get the applicant and the appellant.
So you're moving to adopt the resolution denying the
Yes.
appeal? I'll second that.
I'd like to make an addendum to the motion to add the condition for the CUP that I mentioned earlier.
Councilmember Soon, I've been scribbling some stuff over here, and let me tell you what I've come up with, see if this is acceptable to the council, and we can see if it's acceptable to the applicant. Let me just read it in slowly, assuming I can read my writing here. Applicant shall maintain all structures and features on site to avoid building and structure degradation, including without limitation, rust or other physical decay or degradation. The point being that we want to avoid the rust situation you saw in this photo and avoid any kind of degradation or decay of the structures in the buildings.
Yeah, do we need to add observable, or it's good enough, I guess, as is?
We can add observable. This is actually broader.
That's stricter, yeah, it's broader. I got it. Yep. I
If it's
just
something you don't
corrected
see,
myself.
then they still have
Yeah.
to maintain it.
Yep, thank you.
So I can read it again if you like, so we got it.
I'm good.
And if the applicant wants to tell us whether or not that's acceptable, that would be helpful.
Okay, good. Got a motion, second?
So I amend my motion to add that on.
Amend my second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Next item.
Take us to item 9.2, which is a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution confirming the Laguna West Service Area Engineers Report for fiscal year 2017-18 service charges and ordering the levy of the Laguna West Service Area.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kara Taylor Seaman, and I am the finance analyst for the City of Elk Grove. I'm responsible for coordinating the administration of the special tax districts within the city. So I'm here this evening to talk about public hearing to consider the adoption of the resolution to confirm the Laguna West annual report for 2017-18 and also order the service charges for that district. There are 3 separate charges within the district, and those have not changed this year. The charges are currently assessed at the maximum amount allowed, and they've remained constant since the City of Elk Grove took over the administration of the district back in 2004. There's no escalation factor that applies to this district, so staff does not anticipate that there will be any increases in the future. One thing that is worth noting is that the formation documents were prepared by Sacramento County back in 1993, and they require that an annual report be presented and noticed every year. That is unique and different from all of the other special tax districts within the city. So with that, I am available for any questions regarding this agenda item.
Are there any questions? Seeing that there are none.
Okay.
No questions? Right, want to declare public hearing open. Want to open public comment, seeing that there's no speaker signed up to speak. Want to close public comment. Declare public hearing closed. Council deliberation and direction.
Make the
Move to-
motion to, go ahead.
We'll second Councilmember Sewan's motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Next item.
Take us to section 10, our regular agenda action items and recommendations, starting with item 10.1. We just received a presentation from Joe A. Gonzalez and Son regarding state government relations services.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Kara Reddick, Deputy City Manager. Tonight, we're going to talk about the State Government Relations Services contract. Just a little background, the city has contracted with Joe A. Gonzalez and Son since 2002. The contract renewal was originally heard on June 28th, but it was continued to a date uncertain. Council directed staff to have individual one-on-one meetings with the consultant, invite the consultant to make a presentation at the City Council, and then establish a fiscal year 2018 work plan. I'll briefly go over the accomplishments of the firm. They provide weekly reports to the city. This last legislative session, the Assembly introduced 1,700 bills. The Senate introduced 858 bills. The firm analyzes and reviews all the bills and provides the city a weekly report on bills that impact the city. They advocated for AB 906 in 2015, which repealed a statutory requirement, proportionate share payment to Sacramento Regional Transit District. This saves the city approximately $446,000 annually. They support the city's effort to attract and retain state office buildings to Elk Grove. They work closely with the State Department of General Services to keep Elk Grove a top-of-mind option. And they were instrumental in the relocation of the California Correctional Health Care Services relocation to Elk Grove. They recently provided legislative advocacy support to Assemblymember Cooper's efforts to secure $5 million to the city to help address homelessness. And they proved to be instrumental in having cities removed from AB 1250, which was a contracting bill which would have provided a lot of costly reporting requirements for us. They've prepared a 2018-19 legislative goals and objectives document where they'll advocate on the city's legislative interests at the state level. They'll communicate all legislative proposals on proposed initiatives, government regulations, or legislative proposals to the city. They'll work with the departments to develop positions on proposed legislative matters. We will meet in the fall to identify our city priorities and develop the appropriate action plan to accomplish each priority. Often they provide support for ad hoc items that come up throughout the year. They'll be working closely with the Department of General Services and directly with state agencies to encourage the siting of state office buildings in conjunction with our Economic Development Department. And they'll be working with us to conduct a series of meetings in order to identify possible funding sources for Camera Road. With the adoption of SB 1, there are some new funding streams for transportation funding. So staff's recommendation is to hear a presentation from Joe A. Gonzalez and Son representatives, and then consider adopting a resolution dispensing with the formal request for proposal procedures pursuant to Elk Grove Municipal Code Section 3.42.140, and then authorize the city manager to execute a 3-year contract with Joe A. Gonzalez and Son for state government relations services with a not to exceed amount of $135,000 for a term of 3 years, or a lesser term and amount as directed by the City Council. So at this time, I'd like to invite Jason Gonzalez and other representatives from Joe A. Gonzalez and Son up to the podium to give a presentation.
Well, thank you, Kara, and good evening, Vice Mayor Detrick and members of the council. My name is Jason Gonzalez. I'm with the lobbying firm Joe A. Gonzalez and Son. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I learned a lot about planning of car washes.
More than you ever
And I was
wanted to
doing
know.
okay until the In-N-Out Burger discussion came up. Our firm has had the honor of representing the city since 2002. It was a multi-year effort to reallocate sales tax that brought your city and our firm together. We successfully staved off efforts to change the situs allocation of sales tax from situs to per capita. over the, and I should back up, we, in addition to myself, we're a family firm, as you may know. My father, Anthony, who's in the audience, he started with the firm in 1977, so he's starting to get the hang of things. My brother Paul joined us in 2004, and so we've had the pleasure of again, representing the city. And before delving into some of the successes, I'd like to preface the comments with the fact that it's a partnership. We take our direction from the management team at the direction of the mayor and the council, and the communication that we enjoy enables us to be successful in Sacramento. We have had a number of issues over the years. One example was trying to determine how many state employees actually live in Elk Grove. And after kind of running our heads against the wall with the state controller's office, we went in to have a bill introduced by then Assemblymember Allison Huber, and who said, we have to run a bill to get the controller's office to run a payroll report. And so with Allison Huber's chief of staff, Tim Reardon, the city, ourselves, and the controller's chief counsel, Rick Chavarro, we were able to get a run of city employees, state employees that live in the city. With one caveat, the city had to pay something like $150 to make the run. So bureaucracy at its best, but it's just examples of coordination that we have had with your city, the receiver's office, with the Department of General Services and the city, and the incentive package, as well as the proactive efforts that the mayor and the council and the management staff undertook, led to a successful siting of the receiver's campus or headquarters, and is an example that I think DGS and the state can and should follow, and will be incumbent upon us to help encourage them to follow. We had some fun with the RT issue. I think it's okay to share. Kara had called and wanted a bill introduced, and we're not certain it's actually going to get through the legislature, but we'd like to get RT's attention. I jokingly told Kara, if we put the bill in, we're going to get it through the legislature. And through a few twists and turns and your staff's guidance, we were able to get it through the legislature, and also Assemblymember Cooper was our champion to push along the way. So there's been efforts ongoing, regardless of what we may or may not be able to predict in Sacramento. We always encourage our clients to please give us a chance, call us. Again, your priorities become our priorities. It's not a top 10. Give us 20, give us 30. We're going to get to work on them. And then lastly, we know the priority of Camera Road and the efforts underway. We met with the State Transportation Agency on a different matter yesterday, and the Secretary, Brian Kelly, said they are looking for shovel-ready projects. With SB1, the gas tax and diesel tax funding, I would say there's a cautious concern that if there's an effort to repeal or go to the voters on such an issue, the state is going to highlight projects where this money is going out the door. I would use the analogy of the ARA, American Recovery Act, under then President Obama. The state is looking to show how these funds will get used and how we can improve transportation throughout the state. And your project, with our collective efforts, I think we can get it towards the top of that. So again, it's been an honor to represent your city. If given the opportunity to continue to do so, assuming Dad and Paul didn't do anything to upend us, we'll look forward to sharing in many future successes. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the mayor or the council may have. Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead, Councilman Sim.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason, not a question, but I just want to thank you and Anthony and Paul for meeting with me today. Got to get a taste, an example, or understand your rich history that you have in the Capitol, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've done thus far to date. So these milestones or these achievements, I should say, that Kara highlighted are no small feat, and they had a direct benefit to the city's bottom line. So I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, Jason, I told you most of this in the meeting I had with you and your dad and Paul, and, you guys have not only been great to work with, I consider you guys friends. You take an interest in personal lives as well as everything that goes on here at the city, and I think you hit it nail on the head. It's a partnership. We succeed together, we fail together, and I think we've had more successes than failures, which is always a good thing. And you guys are very professional, very attentive, very responsive. I have absolutely no question extending or putting together a new contract with you guys for 3 years, because I think you guys are top-notch. Obviously, you represent some fantastic cities throughout the state of California, and we're proud to have you as part of our team.
Well, thank you. It's a mutual friendship. Thank you.
Okay. Input?
Yeah, obviously, the work that you do on behalf of all of your city clients that are beneficial to cities is beneficial to us, and so I appreciate that. But I think what speaks best to sort of the character of your representation is that you came to our staff and said, you're not using us enough. Make us do more for you. And so I think we heard that call, and we're trying to do that, and we have obviously a sympathetic ear in Assemblymember Cooper that's able to leverage his weight in the Capitol and get some things done for us. And I think there are some opportunities out there with respect to Camera Road and some of the other infrastructure projects that we'd like to do that we certainly pick up the phone and we'll say, hey, you guys got to go to bat for us, and I know you will, so keep up the good work.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you for taking the opportunity to meet with me. That was very helpful and informative. And it's a no-brainer for me. I think you guys are doing, working very hard. And, from the feedback from Kara is very positive. So, yeah, good. Thank you.
Can I make a comment real quick, Mr. Mayor? Thank you, Kara, for setting this up for us to be able to meet with him. And I really enjoyed the conversation that we had. And as a matter of fact, I've been back to the Capitol since we met like 3 times, and I think I've seen you this afternoon on the Senate floor earlier today. I waved, but I think you guys are so busy with everybody else. I think we've just ran past each other. Now that I've met, I know who you are. I'm gonna make sure I tap you and say. So.
Trip me next time. I apologize.
No,
Feel free to
no, I
trip,
think we're all
works.
running to different meetings there, but it was nice for us to be able to finally meet, because now I think I'm going to see you more often at the Capitol.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, and for me, it was real important that I put a face to a name. I've heard about you. Kara told me wonderful things about you, but I was looking forward to that meeting, so thank you for doing that.
Likewise, it was our pleasure.
All right. Any additional questions? No? None? All right. Want to open public comment? Seeing nobody signed up to speak. Want to close public comment? Open for deliberation and direction.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right. Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Next item.
Thank you.
Take us to item 10.2, which is to consider appointment of 1 voting member of the Multicultural Committee, appointments to 3 voting members of the Youth Commission, and to confirm scheduling appointments to the Historic Preservation Committee for August 23rd. One of the items on the consent calendar was the finalization for the second reading on the changes to the Historic Preservation Committee, and that's part of the reason why there's the request for us to schedule for August 23rd. That'll be, I have a few applications that are on file for the Historic Preservation Committee, but that changes that composition down to 5 members and the 2 alternate positions, so we'd be poised to do that after the ordinance becomes effective at the beginning of August. With our break in August, this would put the that appointment consideration on August 23rd. Otherwise, for the appointments tonight, I leave it to the council. You have the application packets for both Multicultural Committee and the Youth Commission, and it's just a listing of names at this point.
Okay. Suggestions? Want to just start from at the top, multicultural?
And just to note, we do have some speakers signed up for this item.
Oh, okay. Shall we jump right into that then? Yeah, let's do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Want to open public comment? I have Tyson Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, step on up.
Firstly, before I start talking about why I'm up here before all you this evening, I just want to take a brief moment and say thank you to all of you that are watching and are present here and watching this live. And I want to say thank you to Councilman Nguyen, Hume, Councilman Nguyen, Councilman Hume, Councilman Suen, Vice Mayor Dietrich, and Mayor Lee for taking the opportunity for listening to what I have to say up here. Hello, I'm Tyson Gonzalez. Some of you may know me as an old soul, or probably one of the most interactive young person that attends these city council meetings, events, and into public service works. I'm presently 15 years old, and I attend Pleasant Grove High School. I've been into public service work since I was in 7th grade, when I was 13 years old. I started off by volunteering at Teen Center USA. I helped out events such as Teen Idol. Council members Hugh and Dietrich were judges at quite a few auditions. Once again, I want to say thank you for being a part of this, because without the two of you, it wouldn't have been the same or as entertaining if you hadn't been present. Currently, as a public servant, I have great knowledge of a political spectrum and how it affects youth in our society, both socially as well as economically. Young people need someone like me, someone who's ready to stand up against all types of bigotry, someone who's ready to stand tall, someone who's ready to lead, someone who's ready someone who carries high moral principles of a role model, and someone who's ready to lead a leader. That's what I am. I'm up here speaking because, for me, I would like to be the next youth commissioner of Elk Grove. Elk Grove has given a lot to me as well as my family, and in return, this is what I want to do for Elk Grove. Elk Grove is by far one of the most cultural, diverse, and beautiful cities within our nation. As a commissioner, I'm not just going to help out the city, I'm also going to help out other communities beyond here. I'll bring all my skills that are manifested in me to a commission. If a fellow member has a better idea or proposal than me that will help out young people, I'll simply support them on this and make sure it goes to this destination where it needs to go. Every day as a commissioner, I will not abandon or forget the position in which I've been appointed to and to take full responsibility for. Progress is what I want to work towards for every day, alongside my members on a commission, the city's council, the school board, generally, if anyone that wants to make Elk Grove a better place for all its young citizens. I hope you take my consideration for appointment because you won't regret it. Instead, you'll feel relieved because you got a candidate that is ready to take on this duty to a high extent. Thank you all very much for listening to my public comment. And if you guys have any questions, you guys could ask them right now if you guys like to.
Well, first, I want to congratulate you. I know that I've seen you out in the audience multiple times before, and one of the things that I'm quite proud of you for doing is taking the initiative to come down here and to hear some of the city businesses. And we've been in correspondence on a regular basis, and I appreciate your input and your suggestion for some of the projects and some of the things that we have in the city of Elk Grove. So thank you for doing that.
I'll have to echo those sentiments, Tyson. Thank you so much for coming out, and appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Are you still with the Teen Center? Are you still volunteering over there, I mean?
Well, for me, I resigned in my first year of high school just to go focus on that. But for me, I step by in every day to make sure it's doing well. A nonprofit organization that helps out many young people in the city.
Okay, good. Thank you for coming out.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you for coming up tonight, not only putting your application in, but taking the time to come and speak before us. And, and it's been, you've always been very friendly to come up and engage me when I've been at events. So appreciate that a lot.
Thank you. I echo everything they said, and for reaching out to us as well, too. I've noticed you the last several meetings, and to stay to the very end. I think it was a late meeting one night, and you were still out there, and I think it was past 10 o'clock, and you were still here to the very end out there. So I appreciate you getting involved and being here.
Likewise, Tyson.
Yeah.
Likewise, Tyson. Thanks for taking the time to come out and present yourself personally. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just an honor being here because this is like Disneyland for me.
Put that down, somebody.
Yeah, yeah, quote you. All right, next speaker is Natalia Arias Romero.
Tyson, there's a saying, be careful what you wish for.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Natalia Arias Romero, and I'm going to be a junior at Casitas Oaks High School this fall. I'm here today to request your support in my candidacy for the Elk Grove Youth Commission. It would be a great honor to be appointed to serve on the commission, seeing as I would finally have a platform to represent the youth of our city. Since I was young, it's been almost feeling like an obligation to speak for those whose voices might not be being heard. Learning members of policymaking and government might also help me understand what a future career in public service might entail. Being a youth commissioner while also, while also serving in the Elk Grove Summer at City Hall program would also help build a foundation for a future career in law and also in public service. I am eager and excited to apply my skills that I've acquired in school leadership and outside in the community and on the commission. I have experience in organizing a volunteer list for the Elk Grove Aquatics Club annual home meet, and I have also served on the Omni Bear campaign as a volunteer. To me, it is very important to be able to represent the youth of our city because not everyone is lucky enough to be here to get an opportunity to speak and represent themselves. So it is very important that everybody has an opportunity to have their needs heard out. And it's also important that those with a platform are able to represent those who are often looked to the side and often overlooked. And if I am lucky enough to be elected on the commission, it will be my priority to speak for those who unfortunately cannot speak for themselves for many reasons. I thank you all for your time and your consideration, and I am open to any questions at this time.
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Just to comment, Natalia, like Tyson before you, want to commend you for being having the courage to come out here and apply and go for this. I do want to say that I think you're a little bit wiser beyond your years. You're the only applicant that I've ever seen since I've been on here that actually talked about city governance as one of your interest. And I think even a lot of us grown-ups don't appreciate governance and essentially who's responsible for what and the roles and responsibilities of certain function of government. So I just want to commend you I saw that on your application, that stood out for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Natalia, thanks for coming out tonight, and I agree the qualities that you have are very good. Who's the young man you're with out in the audience?
That would be my father.
That's your father. You know, he's beaming up there as he's watching you up here at public speaking, and that's a proud papa, and that's great that you brought her here tonight and to be part of that and support her. So I respect that a lot, and you should be very happy to have a father that supports you and is so proud of you.
I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Questions?
Your application was very well written, and what stood out to me is the inability for youth to find summer jobs, and that's really a passion for me, but also stating the facts about drugs and our young people now getting high off of drugs. So, thank you for touching up on those areas and for being here tonight as well.
Thank you so much.
Councilman Hume?
Yeah, ditto all of that. Thank you for coming out. Very well spoken. Appreciate you taking the time to come out and to present to us. And again, it was a very thorough application, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You did an excellent job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any additional speakers, but I want to say there's another applicant out there. Would you like to come up and speak? Is there one or two?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Broussard, and I am an applicant for the Youth Commission. I think that I should be part of the commission because I volunteered for a lot of events. I volunteered for racing snack bars, and I have volunteered for my school library in 6th grade for 36 weeks, once a week. And I have also, this year, I passed out flyers for the Elk Grove Run, and I think that I would be a good candidate for the Youth Commission. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
Alyssa, thank you for coming out. we want to commend you for the courage also for coming out here. I think you might have also worked on a campaign or two yourself, didn't you? No?
Your dad's?
Your dad?
Strange feeling you did.
That's okay. But again, thank you for coming out, and we really enjoyed looking at your application as well.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Right.
And, you know, thank you for coming up, because we kind of put you on the spot a little bit, and you probably weren't as prepared as you might have. So, I mean, it's always a good opportunity to use public speaking whenever you can, because the more you do it, you get more comfortable. And public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have. So I'm glad you got up here and actually spoke, because I saw you sitting there, and I knew you know your mom and dad, so I figured that you were there. You're here tonight to want to get the position, but you were a little nervous about coming up. So I'm glad you came up and got her done.
Thank you.
All right. Questions?
You did a great job being called on the spot like that, and we're so used to seeing your dad here that it's nice to see you up here as well, too.
Thank you.
Great job, and I saw you hesitate for just a second. You're like, I don't really want to go up to the podium, but I'm glad you did. And I think, again, as been said, you really rallied and gave a great presentation on a moment's notice. So good job.
See, we're pretty nice, right? I always appreciate young people coming and, providing willingness to get involved or suggestions on some of the things that are happening in the community. So thank you very much for stepping up.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other applicants out there? Why don't you come on up? We're going to make everyone speak. I think you're the last one, right? I think so. All right.
Hello, my name is Sienna, and I'm enrolled at Laguna Creek High School. And when I heard about the Youth Commission, it was rather new to me. But what I've gathered is that it's a commission that helps aid the youth in this community. And if appointed, I would really like to provide a lot of resources to struggling youth in this community, considering there's lots of issues on lack of knowledge and real life skills and dealing with things like homelessness and poverty, and I would really like to help towards that. Oh, any questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I'm leadoff batter tonight. So again, I want to also commend you, Sienna, for coming out. We appreciate your application, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Sienna, I'm so glad you came, because you're from District 3, and that's my district. So we've always been kind of underutilized of a lot of the schools promoting it. So I'm happy you're here tonight to be an applicant, and hopefully you're one of the successful ones, because we need more representation from District 3.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions, comments?
Congratulations again on coming up cold on the spot and speaking at the podium. And since you took the least amount of time of anyone yet to speak, I'm going to ask you a question, because I feel like you're going to be able to give me an answer. If you could snap your fingers and change the one thing or provide one thing in Elk Grove for the youth, what would it be?
I would like to provide help on applications and resumes. Information on that is very lacking, because access to a counselor to get that aid is very limited, considering there's about one counselor to every 400 students. So I'd really like to provide more availability to that.
How about that for a glimpse into how her thinking? Mine would have been like roller coasters or, she's like, help me figure out my future better.
Well, speaking of roller coasters, since you're all here, are you guys familiar with Party on the Palms?
I'm not.
You are, good. So I just want to say that since you're all still here, that Party on the Palms was something that we put together for teenagers, because a lot of these applications talked about not enough things for teens to do. So we're doing it again, September 16th. Please keep an eye out for it, or email us at City Hall, and we'll get you more details. But it's a fun time for kids your age. We close off the streets here, and it's a party on the Palms. So anyway, thank you.
And Councilman Soon is bringing the roller coaster. Thank you so much. I appreciate your willingness to submit your application and also step up.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, since we have the applicants for a youth commission, let's start with that. I'm open.
Yeah.
thoughts?
I'll start with Sierra to take care of my district, so we have some better representation.
Okay.
I think Tyson's been coming to our meetings for several weeks or
Initiative,
several
yeah,
meetings
okay.
now, and he's stayed till the end, so he's very engaged, and he thinks this is like Disneyland, so.
All right. Councilman Ewing?
Yeah, I'm not going to be much help. I mean, I think first of all, if you show up, that goes a long way towards my book of showing how badly you want it. So congratulations to all of you who showed up. Unfortunately, one too many of you showed up because you're each worthy, but there's only 3 spots available. So there's not a bad choice among them in my book.
I feel the exact same way. So I'm struggling myself. If you wanted to look at the representation of, we're lacking 2 and 3.
Tyson's 2 and Sienna's 3.
And if you wanted to even it out in District 1, that would be Alyssa. Seen that right?
Sienna is District 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sienna's District 1.
Okay.
No, it's District 1 High School and District.
Residents.
District 3 high school.
District 1.
Just to confuse things, what we do is we put the residence address for their district, but also
Oh,
their
I see.
school
Cool,
as a district as well.
So lives in District 1 that attends.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the 10 o'clock rule.
Yeah, right.
All right, thoughts, additional thoughts? Input?
Let's see, what do we got for high schools? We got Pleasant, if you have Pleasant Grove, Cosumnes Oaks,
You need more Elk Grove
Laguna
and Laguna.
Creek.
You guys make it hard on us.
Vice Mayor, you mentioned District 3. None of the applicants live in District 3.
Yeah, but.
Am I seeing that right?
Yeah, she goes to school in District 3.
Sienna does, okay.
That's about as close as I could get.
Jason, how long are the terms? Are they 2 years or till they age?
What it is there's a cap that once you have served 2 terms, so they do go, we would be reviewing appointments, but what really happens for most students is that they become too old. And so, or usually they're going off to college. So they usually resign before they come of age, but 4 years, but that basically covers the age spread, so.
Do we have any alternates for the commission?
There are no alternates currently for the Youth Commission.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get the support of the rest of the members, perhaps maybe we can solve this easily by having an alternate.
So I'd be willing to do that. I think the slippery slope of that is then next year, if 7 applicants show up, do we create 4 alternate spots? Or, you know what I mean? I think you're kind of setting a precedence there. So I will throw this out there for consideration, given that, as Jason said, they either term out or they age out or they go off to college. If we look at the ages of the applicants, Sienna, Natalia, and Tyson are all within that range, and Alyssa's just a little younger, that she would have an opportunity as one of the students that are already on the district, or excuse me, on the commission, either term out or age out, that she could come back with a leg up at that point.
Yeah.
That, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, with the leg up, yeah.
Let me see if I understand you. You're suggesting,
She's 2 years younger.
Right.
So she has 4 years of opportunity, where the other one's only.
oh, I see, okay.
So she could come back next year.
Well, thank you for translating that. I appreciate that. So
The
that
fact
being,
that either one of you can understand me at 9:30 at night is pretty,
so that being the case, I'm prepared to push forward or nominate Sienna, Tyson, and Natalia.
Do we know the other one, do we know the other ones, if any of them are terming out next year or anything? I'm just
I'm
curious.
sure they are.
I'd have, on average, we usually have about 3 to 4 youth commissioners step down on an annual basis. So generally, we have kind of a number going. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay.
So Alyssa, go get a year of experience, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Alyssa, it doesn't preclude you from going to the meetings either, so you can kind of even go and really
Yeah.
kind of get engaged.
And participate, yeah.
And so the older ones could take you under their wing.
And Alyssa, I'll add that I do a lot of youth work in the Sacramento region, and I'm looking to do more here in the city of Belgrade. I'd love to pull you along with me and help guide some of that we can spearhead it and lead it here in the city of Elk Grove.
Excellent. Thank you and congratulations. All right. Do we need an action on that, or? is that sufficient?
Just the appointment with concurrence of the council works, but we still also have the vacancy appointments to the multicultural committee.
All right, multicultural.
So I'll lead off here. Had the opportunity to meet Coy Rivers at our last diversity committee meeting. Very impressed with her as an individual and what I think she'd bring to the table. Sean Yang has reached out and seems very eager and very proud and involved with his community. Gurjitinder, I know, and he's a very enthusiastic individual and be happy to support.
Yep.
But the one that stuck out to me, because I'm not sure that it's represented on the committee as it exists, was Imogen Espinoza, who's a member of the Wilton Rancheria tribe.
So I followed all those with you. It's the same way. I met with Coy as well. I was very, very impressed with her. And by the way, she had a family emergency. That's why otherwise she would have been here tonight. And she may have been the only one that would have been here tonight. Just take that in consideration. Yes, we know Gurjitinder as well. Also a great asset in the community. Sean has been very diligent about reaching out. Imogen, I appreciated that as well. The other one I'll add in there is Jessica Carter, who has direct employment experience in diversity. I mean, that's what she does over at CalPERS, it looks like.
Of course,
Those are the ones that stuck out for me.
Okay.
So District 1 and District 4 are already loaded with 3. So we should probably be looking at 2 and 3 as the.
It's always 2 and 3.
You don't have any applicants from 3.
Correct.
We have 2.
We have 2
Jessica.
twos.
And, okay, here you go.
Well, Imogen's
Imogen.
one of them,
Yeah,
and so is Jessica.
yeah, so there's 2 from 2. There are no 3.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well,
I could go either way. I think one has.
I think my only thing is, both Sean, Coy, and Gurjit Tinder have all reached out, but not Imogen and Jessica for me.
True. Anders reached out to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
really?
here. Those three reached out to me only as well.
Yeah.
Yes, Gurjit did reach out to me. I failed to mention
How
it.
about as far as, I know we've probably never discussed it, but the mixture on the commission?
Oh, the balance ethically?
Yeah, because I think we have, actually, I don't know what the ratio is on.
Do you know, Jason?
Yeah, we gotta look at the ethnic breakdown.
Do you know?
Well, you can look right here. I mean, they're right here.
There is on the, yeah, that second page of the,
Oh.
gives you kind of a
You get the
sense just of our
names.
current members, the 9 members that we have on the board. I would say it's rather multicultural, so it's, we have quite a span and an,
The member that left, who is she?
Jonna Schober.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Do we have anybody on the committee that is Native American,
Prettender's
American
probably
Indian?
been
It
one of the
looks
most
like-
active.
No, so.
It's true. You know, in terms of existing activity, I would agree with that. Ratinder Randawa has been pretty prominent in the community.
I'm okay with that.
You okay with that? All right. All right. I'll push forward Gurtinder Singh Randawa, and I think that's it, right?
That'd be it for the appointments, and then we'll be back on August 23rd for the Historic Preservation Committee.
Okay. Next item then.
That takes us to item 10.3, which is designation of voting delegate and alternate or alternates to the 2017 League of California Cities Annual Conference.
Well, who's going?
I'd say we nominate the new kid on the block.
Me.
And
At least it's in Sacramento.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and I think you were able to check your schedule. Were you able to do it?
I did.
Okay. So I'll push and nominate Councilwoman Nguyen.
You need an alternate, you said too, right?
It'd be a preference just from the league's perspective. It gives a backup for them just in case anything comes up.
I'm happy to be the alternate. I'm going to try to be at least one of them because I represent the Transportation Infrastructure Committee for
Perfect.
EPI.
Perfect.
Stephanie and
Excellent.
Darren's perfect.
All right. All right, thank you. 9:41. Adjourned.
Get that on record too. Perfect.